across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. This is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. And coming up at midnight, it is the Talkback Hour, and it is your chance to talk back. And I do want to talk to you. We've got a new Prime Minister. I know. I mean, we say that quite often, don't we? We've got a new Prime Minister. So we do have a new Prime Minister. It is Andy Burnham. He will be declared on Saturday, but he won't be Prime Minister until Keir Starmer resigns. He has to go. Anyway, it's all very complicated and boring. But anyway, as of next week, we have a brand new Prime Minister that actually none of us really know much about. We know he was Mayor of Manchester. He was extremely popular in Manchester. But a mayor in a city is very different to a Prime Minister. Mayors usually give out nice things and they do all of those nice things, and they haven't got the huge budget restraints that there are in running the country. So it's going to be a very, very different man, and a lot of people don't know who he is, and a lot of people don't know who he stands for, what he stands for, and who he stands for. So do you think that the MPs, all of them, should give up some of their holiday? They have 6 weeks, some of their time off, although they say that they're always doing, constituency work and stuff like that. But should they actually give up some time off to question Andy Burnham, to put his feet to the fire, to find out who this man is? Because the country doesn't stop just because they want to have a holiday. This is important. We have a new Prime Minister that we don't know what he stands for, really. We don't know who he is. Many people in the country have never really heard about him until recently. Should we be saying to MPs, they do work for us and they do get paid handsomely for that work, may I add, that they should actually want to give up a bit of time, a week or two, to do the job that they are paid to do? Well, the Tories believe that they should. So I'm asking you, do you think that that is reasonable? Maybe you think, well, no, they need the time off, bless them. All that hard work that they do on our behalf and all of those things that they do to make sure our lives are easier and cheaper and nicer, all those things, that they do deserve the time off. So give me a call. I'd like to hear from you on this. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word TALK and your message to 87222. I, for one, believe they should. And they should be asking him some really awkward questions about what he plans to do with the country now that he's running it. And really, barely anybody voted for him. So we need to know who he is. So that's coming up at midnight. Before that, we have Amy Fisher in the studio. She's going to be here. She was comms for the Tories, so it'll be really interesting to see what she thinks about that and thinks about these MPs and really who Andy Burnham is and the rights that we have to know who he is and what he's about. So she's going to be in to go through the papers as well. We are also going to be looking at the licence fee situation with a guy called Stephen D. Wright. Now, he's a broadcaster, TV producer and ex-Channel 4 commissioner, and I wanted to look at it from the point of view of somebody who makes programmes, and this whole idea that just because you watch something on Netflix or Amazon Prime or Disney Plus that you already pay for, that you should have to pay the BBC as well. I mean, it just is, I don't get the logic of any of that. I really, just because the cameraman or camerawoman was trained at the BBC and now works on Netflix doesn't mean that you have to keep paying for these people and for what the BBC has done. Anyway, we'll talk about that as well. We're also going to be looking at Andy Burnham. He is, like I said, going to be the next Prime Minister. And Tony Blair has warned him. He has given him a warning saying, you may think you're going to be loved, but you won't be. So what other advice has Andy Burnham got? He is not going to be loved, we know that, and he's going to find it really, really difficult. So we're going to be talking to Kevin Schofield as we look now to the certainty of an Andy Burnham premiership. Also want to say congratulations this evening to Spain, and if we win tomorrow, then it will be England-Spain, which I think is slightly better than England-France. But anyway, congratulations to Spain on their 2-0 win. Extraordinary. And commiserations to the French. But let's kick off the programme by talking about the Strait of Hormuz, because that's back in the news, because US President Donald Trump, who had proposed, rather bizarrely, to charge a 20% toll on all shipping that went through the Strait of Hormuz as payment for him guiding, or America guiding ships through the Strait of Hormuz. May I remind you that the Strait of Hormuz was open and free before America and Israel mounted their attack on Iran. So the brass neck, frankly, of saying he's going to charge for the problem that he caused was extraordinary. Well, clearly he had phone calls from people in the region, countries in the region, who said that that would be unacceptable. He's now U-turned on that, but he's now said that what these countries are going to do instead is invest billions into the United States of America. He saw charging a toll as a way of getting some money back in defending the strait. But he has to remember as well that the petrodollar, which keeps America afloat, literally, is payment to America to defend those countries. So he's already being handsomely paid. America is already being... it would collapse without the petrodollar overnight. Posting on his Truth Social platform, Trump has committed to keeping a blockade in place, though, on Iranian ports, which he had threatened to reimpose from 9 p.m. UK time tonight. But he said he would replace what he called the 20% United States reimbursement fee, I don't have the words, with trade and investment deals with Gulf states in the region. Like I said, he's already handsomely paid by those states in the region with the petrodollar. But to discuss this and the fact that Donald Trump says, look, it is open to all shipping apart from Iranian shipping. He keeps saying that. That was a big Truth Social as well. Talking now to our favourite expert, Lauriane Larocco, expert in global supply chains, trade and maritime logistics from Larocco Consulting. And you can find Lauriane as an author on Substack. Good to see you again, Lauriane.
Good to see you, Petrie. How are you doing?
It's great. It's great to see you. I mean, just this, I think you can tell from my fury about Donald Trump really having the brass neck to suggest that he should get a 20% reimbursement fee for keeping open a strait that was already open before he and Israel started this attack on Iran.
Most definitely, but for the viewers that are out there, it would be illegal if he did that, because under the UN's law, there is a law of the sea where the straits, like the Strait of Hormuz, you cannot charge. And if there were going to be changes, the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, the members of the IMO would have to vote on it. And so even if he didn't step back, right, it could not happen until you had that vote. And there was so much uncertainty this morning before, the president stepped back. And I was corresponding with the IMO, and they told me they did not hear from the Trump administration into how this 20% would be deployed. And then they doubled down again, saying that you cannot charge this natural body of water. And you've even seen that, like with Secretary Rubio and other administration officials that have said, and even the president himself, saying that you can't tariff the Strait of Hormuz because it's a natural body of water. It's not like the Panama Canal. So it's interesting to see, how he's two-stepping here. But remember, Petrie, it's all bluster. He's saying that the Arab states are going to be investing into the United States. We don't have details on that. No. That's just a line. So until you really see it, it's like with a memorandum of understanding, it means nothing. It literally means nothing. And this is where we are right now. And vessels are moving, but not at where they should be. And those that do move, they're being targeted by Iran and having missiles shot at them.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about the Memorandum of Understanding, because it appears to me, on the face of it, that the Article 5 in the Memorandum of Understanding is that it is written in a way that can be interpreted differently by two different people.
Yes.
This is the problem with rushing at a contract or at an agreement. Because actually, if you are from the Islamic Republic of Iran, it says here quite clearly, the Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vehicles with no charge for 60 days. So it goes on, but that sounds like they were saying, we want them all to go around the island, is it Larak Island at the top, and America thought that meant that people could pass anywhere that they wanted to. So the Memorandum of Understanding seems to be so easy to misunderstand. And I don't know which person got it wrong, but they both think they're right.
Well, they do. And that's why, like we've talked about this before, it's the tale of two straits. You have the Northern Passage, which is controlled by Iran, and then you have the Southern Passage, which is by Oman, and that's controlled by the U.S. And then remember, briefly, we had the center open, which was the IMO, and then you had the attacks there, and the IMO said, we're shutting down. So it was written in a way where you could have both sides say that they are right. And it's unfortunate. But, I've spoken with, U.S. security officials back in June, where a lot of them were saying Trump needed to have some sort of deal before July 4th, before the 250 celebration of America, to get gasoline down, because it's a very big holiday, for driving here in America. And when did that deal get inked?
Yeah.
So, but then, of course, it unraveled, and here we are. And I can personally tell you, in a matter of 2 days, the price of gasoline went up 30 cents.
Wow.
30 cents. And so it's really unfathomable to see what we're seeing. And, I spoke with tanker owner operators. They're not going back in. Those that finally got out, they're not going back in. And then you're seeing other tensions. A couple of days ago, Ambry, which is a UK security maritime organization, they reported that a tanker was threatened by 6 different small vessels down by Yemen at the mouth of the Red Sea.
Wow.
It's a tanker. And then you take that route to go up to the port of Yanbu.
Yeah.
So if the Houthis effectively shut that down, you can see $250 oil, because that's the way that people are circumventing.
But they've been threatening that for a while, right? And Iran has already had the Houthis in their back pocket.
Exactly.
And if they close that down, that Red Sea access down, like you're saying, that cripples the world supply more than just the Strait of Hormuz would.
Exactly. I was speaking with a tanker owner operator today, and they told me they were doing that route. They've pulled out. They said the danger is rising, and we are not going there.
And Laurie, I guess
will, but a lot won't.
I guess the issue is with those tanker owners who are saying, right, we've now got out of the Strait of Hormuz after 100 days or however long they were stuck in there. We need to use these tankers around the world. We've got a backlog now of things that need to be moved around the world. We cannot risk going back to collect oil because we might get stuck again, and that backs up other deliveries around the world. I guess that's the issue.
Well, exactly, and also the insurance issue. So remember, with the war insurance, if you're stuck in there, depending on the threat of risk, your insurance goes up on a daily basis. And so one of the tanker owners was talking to me about this, and they spend over $1 million a day, anywhere between 1.5 to $2 million, because you have to pay your staff, you have to pay the captain, you have to pay the war insurance, like all these things add up. So it's very costly. There's a phrase in maritime: trade at rest is not making money. And so you absolutely do not want to be stationary, because either your container's stuck at a port, you're not making money because you can't get your product and you're paying detention fees, or in this case, you've got a vessel stuck in a war zone and you're paying through the nose on a daily basis, depending if a missile's coming your way, you might be paying more. And so in the end, that will trickle down to that barrel.
And it's interesting. We just started off by talking about the charge that Donald Trump wanted to make, and he said, "Well, if Iran are doing it, I can do it," which was obviously a childish way to look at this. But let's admit that Iran has been doing it, and against international law, and ships have been paying it. So, and they, all the interviews I've seen recently with spokespeople from Iran, they're saying that we are not giving this back. We are going to charge, and we've now got the strongest possible lever for the whole world, which we didn't have before.
Most definitely. And this is what past presidents have been warned about.
Yeah.
Other presidents have been well versed in terms of, if you go after Iran, this is what's going to happen. And it just shows you that, yes, you can decimate the Navy. Yes, you can decimate the Army, but it just takes drones. It just takes these cheap drones, individuals that want to get on these, these little skiffs or whatnot, and go out there to terrorize and to stop trade. I mean, unfortunately, we've had 8 seafarers die between the war with Iran and with the Russian and Ukraine war over this weekend alone. Yeah. Men and women just trying to do their job, and they're in the crosshairs.
I was again reading earlier on about some strong voices in your world saying, look, we don't see the trajectory of really any improvement in the movement of ships this year. Yeah. And we don't see it returning to normal the following year either. So, especially if Iran does keep its foot on the throat of this strait. So, do we have to now work around it? I mean, I know that people are trying to put in pipelines. Can we survive without the Strait of Hormuz? Is there a way that could happen?
Over the short term, definitely not. Over the long term, it would be it'd be very squeaky, because you don't have enough in production as of right now. When you're looking at, we've talked about this before, the red line, right? How much we have in capacity, how much in storage. At the rate of where we were going, the US SPR would be at 0 in September. Okay,
and that is terrifying, right?
That's terrifying, because we use that during hurricane season. We open it up and then, use oil. You know what's going on in Europe, right? It's not great. You're seeing more of a basket of energy being used. I've been told by my contacts in Europe, you now have some manufacturing plants turning back towards coal, ramping up coal because they can't get LNG. So wow. LNG is down for 3 to 5 years in Qatar. There's definitely not enough there. It's that hole in the bucket that we've talked about, right? You've got the hole in the bucket and you're trying to fill that bucket with water. It's going to still spill out because you've got that hole. And so even with the pipeline, even if you build it, and if the Houthis get their claws into the Strait, the Red Sea, like we see with the Strait, no one is going to be moving up there, or it'll be very little. And so that is going to impact. And you also have Russia now is not exporting. And yes, it's sanctioned, but it does go to China and India. And so now you don't have that energy coming in. So we're not at balance. And so unfortunately, where we are today, it's that compounding effect. It's not going to get better until that hole is officially closed and things get back to normal, but it won't get back to normal.
Is there a concern that if Iran says, well, we're going to charge, simple as that, otherwise you're going to get blown up? The Strait of Hormuz now has a toll on it. Is there a concern that, even though everybody knows that's illegal, but a law is only a law if people follow it, right, or are scared of any consequences of that law? They're not scared of any consequences of breaking that law. Is there a concern that other bodies of water and other groups around the world will then go, well, they didn't pay attention to that law. We're not
Yes.
going to do that either. So we could see bandits, in other words, taking over free areas of sea, and again holding the world to hostage for that.
Oh, exactly. And we've already heard other straits, doing that, kind of rumbling out there. The bottom line is if you have a toll, somebody has to pay for it. And so, like with the toll fee that Trump was looking to impose, the United States would have made over $1 billion annually over that toll, and it actually was more expensive than the Iranian toll.
Yeah.
So it made Iran look reasonable. So the other thing, though, is I spoke with some insurance folks, and they were telling me that that those vessels that are moving through and paying money to Iran, their insurance is null and void.
Wow.
So if God forbid their tanker gets hit, they don't have insurance. It will be null and void because they consider the toll illegal. So that is something that's also by chance with what these countries are doing. I mean, China, as we know, is moving up there. There are definitely vessels still moving up that corridor.
Donald Trump also put out a statement saying that the Strait of Hormuz is open to all shipping apart from Iranian shipping, right? Big capital letters, it's open.
Yeah.
We are the guardians of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
Is there any truth in that?
It really is. I mean, when you look at the numbers, now remember, and I know this as well because I spoke with tanker owners that went through that part of the strait. They go in dark. So they shut off everything in order to make sure that they are not targets. They go in the dark of night, like black, no stars, it just, it's like one of those movie scenes where they go in dark, they shut off, all electricity that they have to, their GPS, their vessel correspondence, which is AIS, and then they go through that strait without anything. And so they do, and they actually, they actually are successful in moving things out, but it's not like you can send out a ton of them at the same time because nobody has their beacons on, so you don't know how close you are to another vessel.
So it's not truly open then?
Oh, no, it's definitely not truly open. It's open in the sense that we are moving. It's a nuance. They're moving, X amount of vessels. Iran has moved X amount of vessels. But when you look at the overall amount of vessels that are going through daily, it's a little baby sum. It means nothing. It's just, Iran's already positioned 23 vessels within their side of the strait as blockade blockers. And 10 of them are full with cargo. So, you've got the blockade for the U.S., you've got the blockade now for Iran. It's a tit for tat, amongst countries, but something's got to give. You got to have both sides willing to truly talk and stop the blustering that we're seeing now, because it's impacting the global markets. And eventually, this will trickle down into the economy.
Yeah, I absolutely will. It's such a joy to see you, Laurie. Thank you very much indeed. Laurie-Anne LaRocco there, expert in global supply chains, trade and maritime logistics from LaRocco Consulting. And don't forget, you can find Laurie-Anne as an author on Substack. Quick break, back in a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here, and at midnight it is your chance to talk back. And I'm just wondering if you think we're going to have another new Prime Minister, right? And we don't really know a lot about him, right? We think he's this charming, nice northern guy who's done a reasonable job up in Manchester. Very different to running the country, though, running a city. We don't know anything about what he wants. I mean, we know that his backbenchers have been in his ear. We know that they're talking now about softening on immigration. We know that there's people who want him to allow councils to put up council tax by as much as they want to. And currently, they can't put it up by any more than, I think it's between 3 to 5%, right? Unless there's a vote, right? The government has sidestepped that a bit recently and they allowed people to put their council tax up by more if they want to. But what the backbenchers want is Andy Burnham to just say to the councils, charge what you want. Charge what you want. So all of these things need to be scrutinised. They need to be questioned. We need the opposition parties to make sure that they are there putting Andy Burnham's brand new feet to the fire. And yet they're going off on 6 weeks holiday. So 6 weeks holidays in one lump. I mean, they get other holidays. I think that's quite a lot. Maybe they should give up a week of that to do the job they're paid to do. And that is to scrutinise our next Prime Minister. Because otherwise we won't know anything at all, really. We're going to be in this nothing space of not knowing what this new Prime Minister is aiming to do for 6 weeks. And that, I think, is untenable. And so do the Tories. The Tories are saying, look, he needs to be questioned, he needs to be scrutinised, we need to know what's going on. The markets won't like being held in hiatus either. Nobody's going to like it. We need to at least be able to ask this man some questions. And it seems designed so that we don't get that opportunity. Why? So I want them to take a little bit of time to do the jobs that we pay them handsomely to do. And give back, take another week somewhere else. I don't care. This is important. This is a new Prime Minister. And not to mention all of the global stuff that's going on as well. So there's a lot that needs to be done. So give me a call. Let me know. Should they give up some of their holidays? 0344 499 1000.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Got on a big holiday.
Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. This is Talk, and you're with Petrie. And just a reminder that Amy Fisher's coming up at the top of the hour to go through the papers. But now, as I was saying just before that break, we have another new Prime Minister. Andy Burnham will officially become our next PM on Monday and already faces a demanding transition into his new role. Now, despite being cheered by all of those Labour MPs who, I may add, also cheered for Keir Starmer a couple of years ago, the former leader of the party, Tony Blair, warned him that he is not going to be loved. Meanwhile, Tories demanded a delay to Parliament's long summer recess, calling it unacceptable for Burnham to avoid scrutiny on his unrevealed policies. Adding to his pressure, a cross-party group of MPs urges Burnham to let local councils raise council tax by as much as they want. And controversy has erupted after Green councillors attended a rally where protesters, and this is really distasteful given what's just happened with Anne Widdecombe, protesters were stabbing a Burnham effigy over single-sex space guidelines. So is the worm going to turn? When is the worm going to turn? And when are those backbenchers who all loved Keir Starmer 2 years ago going to turn? Well, here to discuss Andy Burnham's future, near and far, is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. So those images of people cheering Andy, besooted Andy Burnham, were the same ones that were cheering for Keir Starmer.
Yeah, and you wonder why the public are cynical about politicians.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, when he got elected the MP for Makerfield a few weeks ago, his first day in Parliament, he went to Westminster Hall and he did a big selfie with hundreds of Labour MPs behind him, many of whom were cabinet ministers under Keir Starmer who had pledged loyalty to Keir Starmer, and there they were rushing to get a selfie with Andy Burnham. I mean, you really couldn't make it up. And yeah, I think his honeymoon will be very short, and it is absolutely incredible that this is a man who's going to become Prime Minister with zero scrutiny whatsoever. He won a by-election. He's not had to beat anyone to become Labour leader.
No.
He's not had to fight a general election or anything like that to become Prime Minister.
Well, he wasn't even an MP, was he, in the last election?
No, exactly.
It's interesting, though, that Tony Blair is warning him he's not going to be loved, because I think that Andy Burnham is quite used to being loved. I think he was well regarded in Manchester. He certainly knew how to speak their language. He managed to get some things. Well, he didn't. He managed to talk to the councils around Manchester who managed to get things done. So he's used to being popular. How long do we think he's going to be? Well, he's not even popular with the country yet, right? He's only popular with the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Yeah, and I think he's popular probably with Labour members. I think as far as Labour politicians go, he's probably the most popular one in the country, but that's a fairly low bar. I mean, I think he'll be popular until he makes his first difficult decision. And when you're Prime Minister, you make difficult decisions every single day of the week that are good for some people and bad for others. And you're right, as a mayor, it's been described as politics on easy mode. You know, you're not having to really make tough choices, really. You're just spending money given to you by Westminster, by central government. And, you know, if you don't have enough money for a certain project, you can just blame it on Westminster. And you say you don't have enough funds from Westminster, or you don't have the necessary powers. So, you know, you've only got to look at the record of mayors getting re-elected. It's quite unusual for sitting mayors not to get re-elected, which I think tells you quite a lot, that they tend not to make many difficult decisions.
Exactly. And they only present the good decisions that they've been able to make, right? They don't have to talk about the decisions they haven't made. So that's a very different job.
Very different job. And you're not having to lead a political party at the same time. You're not having to persuade hundreds of your MPs to back you, to support your decisions, many of which will be very controversial. I mean, we've seen that with Keir Starmer. I mean, yeah, he didn't come in on a wave of popularity, maybe like Tony Blair did in 1997, but, you know, he still came in with a hefty majority and it very quickly fell about his ears. So I think if Andy Burnham thinks he's going to come in and it's going to be plain sailing, I'm sure he doesn't think that, by the way, but, you know, I think he's going to be very quickly shown that is not the case at all. And I think Tony Blair, who knows a thing or two about being an unpopular Prime Minister, is absolutely bang on.
It's Keir Starmer's last PMQs tomorrow, and I suspect he'll be given quite a nice a time in the Commons. I imagine that it will be pretty full. People will want to see that, and all of those people that may have backstabbed him will be patting him on the back tomorrow. But it's got to be a difficult day for Keir Starmer, hasn't it? Because he's already yesterday's man.
Yeah, it'll be a bittersweet day for him. I mean, he certainly, when he became Prime Minister a couple of years ago, he would not have even dreamt in his worst nightmares that it would have ended so quickly, given the size of his majority. I don't think anyone really predicted this. So yeah, he'll be very bitter. I think he will be very regretful. He'll be sad that it's ended as quickly as it has. But I think maybe it might be tinged with a little bit of relief. You know, he's no longer going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's no longer going to have to, as I said earlier, having to fight on an almost daily basis with his MPs. And the pressure will be off, and he can go off and become a former Prime Minister. And they tend to do rather well in terms of the after-dinner circuit. In America, for instance, you know, once you've got Prime Minister of this country on your CV, maybe unless you're Liz Truss, then
maybe
your reputation is pretty good, albeit it has ended badly for him. But yeah, you're right. I think it'll be a pretty unusual Prime Minister's questions tomorrow. Kemi Badenoch will probably pull her punches, I think, and there'll probably be a round of applause and standing ovation or whatever at the end. There'll be he might come along armed with a few jokes, which he'll probably murder. But it'll be a strange occasion for him. And then
presumably Andy Burnham won't be in the chamber.
I think it would be advisable for him not to be. I think that would be pretty poor form. I think he wasn't there 2 weeks ago.
That's right. Yeah.
The last Prime Minister's questions that Keir Starmer had. Because he would become the focus, you know, if he would, you know, Tory MP after Tory MP would make reference to Andy Burnham sitting on the back benches to embarrass Keir Starmer. So I think he'd be well advised to stay away. And we know that he won't be staying away from Parliament for the next 6 weeks until we finally get to see him.
You see, that's the question I'm asking at midnight, Kevin, because it seems that it seems to me to be ridiculous. This is a very special situation. It was timed to happen this way, which I think is weird as well, that this man will disappear and we won't be able to scrutinise him or know anything for 6 weeks. I mean, that leaves the country, as far as I'm concerned, in a vacuum. I mean, what on earth? We will feel completely unled. I know that isn't the case, because contingencies are in place when it's recess, but this is the brand new Prime Minister. Do you agree with the Tories that they should give up a couple of weeks of their holiday and hold this man to account, to ask him what he's going to do?
Well, I think the Tories were only asking for 1 day. I think they were asking for, don't go away on Thursday, come back on Monday, becomes Prime Minister on Monday, go straight to Parliament, make a statement and answer some questions. I don't think that is too much to ask. But we're led to believe, or certainly the Tories are claiming, they were wanting to put that to a vote tomorrow. Labour got wind of it and put a stop to it, changed the order of business so that there's a debate on Iran tomorrow rather than a debate on whether Parliament should sit into next week to allow MPs to interrogate the new Prime Minister. Now, I wouldn't mind so much if it wasn't for the fact, as I said earlier, that he's become Prime Minister with zero scrutiny.
Yeah, none.
He's not had to fight a leadership election. He's not had to fight a general election. He fought a by-election, but that was mainly on local issues. And now he's assuming the highest office in the land, and we don't really. He gave one speech a couple of weeks ago and didn't answer any questions after it from the media. Which
and he didn't really say anything because he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure that he was going to be PM. Well, he is sure now, and we have no idea really what he's saying. This is good. We're going to rip up the rules. It's all going to be. But we have no policy ideas. We have no ideas about how he's going to raise tax, because it seems that that's what he is going to do, and we won't know for 6 weeks. That feels like too much of a vacuum, where one PM has gone and we don't I mean, OK, he's PM by name, but he's not doing any work.
No, you're absolutely right. We just don't know what he's going to be doing. I mean, you look at the state of the world, wars
exactly.
everywhere you look, unfortunately. And he wrote one article in the Times, I think at the beginning of this week, or maybe last week, I think it was, about foreign issues. But even then, we don't really know what his plans are. For instance, how he's going to handle Donald Trump. No. What's his solution on, what's his idea of his approach on Iran? What's he going to do on Ukraine? What's his, we know he's been critical. He put out a video, again, a social media video. He didn't subject himself to an interview. He put out a social media video about criticising Keir Starmer's response to the war in Gaza, saying that they'd got it wrong.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, it was, because he's not answering questions, you're not really able to interrogate what his position is, what he's thinking really is. It's all very scripted right now. So there are so many unanswered questions. And it is an astonishing situation where he won't face MPs until September.
Or journalists, or anybody asking him any questions.
Who knows? Who knows when he'll face journalists?
Yeah, I think it's pretty outrageous, actually. Just before I let you go, this story about Hackney and the Green councillors allowing effigies of Andy Burnham to be stabbed, I think it was with darts, because they didn't agree with his stance over single-sex space guidelines. That seems to be very ill-advised, given the circumstances that are still yet to be cleared up around the alleged murder of Anne Widdecombe.
Yeah, incredibly poor taste, horrible images, really. You wonder what people who do that what's going on inside their heads. But it did again give an example of the threats that MPs face. Now, unfortunately, we've seen a tragic incident with Anne Widdecombe, but also with Joe Cox 10 years ago, David Amos 4 years ago, and Stephen Timms. I remember he survived, but he was attacked.
I remember that. Yeah,
the Labour MP. They are really, unfortunately, putting their lives on the line day in and day out, and that's something I think that we need to, as a country, decide. What level of security do we agree MPs should have, and to see activists, stabbing, even if it's just an effigy, it's
sending the wrong message.
Violent imagery associated with it really leaves a nasty.
Absolutely disgusting, really. Kevin, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Kevin Schofield, there, political editor at the Huffington Post UK.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and just a quick reminder that coming up at the top of the hour is Amy Fisher. She'll be here to go through the papers with me for you. So she'll be here. But before that, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy has said today that the government is considering introducing a staggered system to which there's no real explanation, where those who watch shows on streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime or Disney Plus would have to pay £180 a year to the BBC. As it stands, viewers only need a licence to watch live television or use the BBC iPlayer. Well, streaming giants obviously fiercely oppose the proposals that would require them to help enforce or collect the fee. Well, today, BBC's annual report shows that licence fee payers slid by 539,000 last year to around 23.3 million. However, according to this study, the BBC is still the UK's leading brand for media, reaching 94% of adults on average per month. Now, Lisa Nandy has, this is the quote, right? She says, if you watch any Netflix, Amazon Prime or Apple show, it's likely you'll be watching something that's been made with the support of the BBC infrastructure, whatever that means. They have also may have been made with staff who've been trained by the BBC. So you need to keep paying the BBC because the cameraman was a junior cameraman at the BBC. So I'd love to know what you think about all of this. But before we get your view, Stephen D. Wright joins me now, who's a broadcaster, TV producer and ex-Channel 4 commissioner. Good to speak to you. Thank you for joining me, Stephen. That seems to me to be an almost ridiculous statement to say. I mean, I worked at the BBC. I wasn't trained at the BBC, but I worked at the BBC. Does that mean that Talk viewers should pay the TV licence because I happen to have worked at the BBC? It's ridiculous.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but something has to be done. Something has to be done because people aren't paying their license fee. And, you know, that model does seem to be obsolete in the digital age. You know, we are used to, as consumers, paying for streamers. So I don't react so violently towards the idea of paying £1 extra or whatever it is over a year per week or whatever it is, you know, however they do it, because I'm already paying a fortune for my streamers anyway, much more than the actual license fee. You know, I'm used to doing
I don't mind
that,
the paying. I pay my license fee because I use the BBC, and I think fair is fair,
yes.
right? But to say that because people might have been trained by the BBC, I don't think the public are going to buy that as a reason why they should keep paying.
I think that's quite a weak argument, although the BBC is the sort of lifeblood of the British TV industry. I mean, if you look at it on monetary terms, you know, the BBC does create amazing formats. It does take risks. A lot of the commercial channels don't. You know, that does keep the sort of the heart pumping, even though I have my own sort of objections to the BBC playing it too safe. That's my major sort of problem with the BBC. The BBC should be leaning into their amazing PSB unique status that they can take risks. They don't have to worry about, you know, advertisers like ITV or whatever. So it's, you know, that thing of it is the heart of the UK industry, and that industry is a massively successful one. You know, they sell 2 billion in sales or whatever it is, 3 billion a year. You know, it is a money-making operation for everybody, and it supports the entire TV industry. So there should be something to hold that sort of thing together, because the idea that the BBC is allowed to sort of just become an obsolete sort of, you know, old-fashioned, you know, mechanical whatever it is, you know, an analog sort of version in this digital age is wrong to me, and could be terrible for the future of the creative industries.
But surely, you know, you and I pay for our streamers because they offer us something that we want, and otherwise we wouldn't pay them. But we do have the choice not to pay them. And the BBC, there's supposed to be a choice in not paying them if they are not delivering what you want them to deliver. So people are choosing, they're not watching live and they're not using the BBC iPlayer. So they are choosing not to use the BBC. Surely it is down to them to make their offering something that people don't mind paying for. If they want to make it a streaming service, fine.
Yep.
And I can then choose to pay it or not. But to put £180 a year on people's streaming bills seems to me to be the coward's way.
Yes, I mean, I kind of agree with that a little bit, but at the same time, we the BBC, I mean, the big thing really to me as a viewer and as a TV producer, the BBC should be better than it is.
Yes.
The BBC, I think, and I think most people would agree with me, has got a little bit worse over the last few years. It's got a little bit stale. It's the same old formats. It's the same faces. It's the same everything.
Yeah, everything.
Everything, and there used to be amazing channels, BBC Three, BBC Four, whatever. BBC Four is nothing now. It's like they've sort of they've filleted out a lot of the risk and experimentation and variety, which is what viewers want. That's what you would pay for. To me, the way to encourage people to watch the BBC is to make the BBC better. Unfortunately, the BBC are taking a much more sort of risk-averse, cautious approach. Let's double down on the same old, which is exactly the wrong approach. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, the head of BBC TV said that she was going to reduce the development spend. Now that's, for non-TV people, that's the money that you pay people to come up with ideas. That to me feels like a sort of suicidal kind of decision, to stop experimenting. That's the way to make TV better, is to make it better. You know what I mean? I know it sounds
that's the point, though, isn't it? That, like I said, if Disney Plus or Apple, I'm a big fan of Apple because they take risks actually with their programming. I think it's exceptional. But if they stop delivering for me, I would cancel my subscription. The arrogance of the BBC, I think, to say, look, no matter what turd we give you, you're going to pay for it. Is businesses go under if they fail to deliver what the customers want. Now, I don't want to see the BBC go under, but I do think that it is at their behest to make it something that we want to pay for and that we don't mind paying for.
I think most people would agree with that, and I don't think that anybody is getting the message from the BBC that the BBC is going to be better.
No.
I feel like it's very much a sort of, oh, please help us, we're a national treasure. Well, yes, they are, but they should also be the best in the world. They used to be. It feels like they used to be. And now you kind of watch it and you're a bit like, oh, another one.
Yeah, exactly. All the same old faces.
Dreary.
Yeah, it's dreary.
And so, no wonder young people aren't bothering to watch. You know what I mean? It's like, there is a terrible sort of culture malaise, I suppose, within the BBC where you can see they're like, oh, we're on a sinking ship, let's just keep going. It's like, no, bail that water out and fix that hole and keep steaming on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you are one of the greatest cultural institutions in the world. Make it so, you see?
Yeah, but everybody seems to be, I mean, it's a sort of self-perpetuating downward slide, isn't it? Where people are not feeling appreciated at the BBC, where original ideas are not being put forward, where people are feeling like, I thought I was here to do something different and they're just doing the same old turds that comes out all the time. I mean, for somebody like you, who's a producer and an ex-commissioning editor, what would be your advice to the BBC right now? Look, just stop the ship and take account.
Well, exactly that. Get rid of the dead wood, reduce the middle manager strata, and stop paying people fortunes, and start paying for ideas. Start getting the best stuff on. Jiggle the schedule to not make it the same old all the time. I mean, their hit format, Strictly, is 20 years old.
Oh my God!
Even The Traitors is sort of 3 or 4 years old now. It's like, there used to be you only talk to young people, you say there used to be a show like The Traitors every couple of months. Now it's once every 2 years a show will come along. There used to be a lot more risk taking. There used to be a lot more experimentation. People had that right to fail, and it's just gone. There's a sort of, the BBC a commercial entity. Well, you're not really. You're actually a sort of cultural entity that's protected by the licence fee. So use that freedom and go for it, because everybody benefits. It does train people. It does make great shows. It can sell great shows. When it sits on its sort of hands and looks a bit embarrassed, it looks it looks old-fashioned compared to Netflix and Apple.
If it didn't have the licence fee, and I'm not suggesting they shouldn't, but if it didn't have that, maybe they'd work a bit harder on making something they could sell, right? Because a lot of commercial enterprises have to rely on being able to sell stuff, right?
I mean, you'd be sacked for doing a bad job. It you fail upwards at the BBC.
Yeah, you do. You definitely did work there, I can tell you. You and I could have a chat or two, I think, about middle management at the BBC. Stephen, it's a real pleasure to meet you. I hope I get to talk to you again. Stephen D. Wright there, broadcaster, TV producer and ex-Channel 4 commissioner there. I mean, simple, isn't it? Just offer something we want and we'll pay for it like we do with everything else. I don't think it's rocket science. So coming up, of course, at the top of the hour, the other side of the news, we are going to be looking through tomorrow's newspapers for you, so you're ahead of the game. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next couple of hours. And coming up in an hour, it's your chance to talk back. And I did want to talk to you about the fact that we are definitely going to get another new Prime Minister, right? So it's definitely now, and it definitely Andy Burnham. And that'll be from Monday. But then he goes off on holiday. In fact, everybody goes off on holiday for 6 weeks. So we have absolutely no idea who this man is, really. I mean, as mayor, we might know a little bit about him. He certainly seemed to be very popular up there, but this isn't a popularity contest. And he seems to be very popular with the Labour group. And of course, they were all applauding him, like they did with Keir Starmer before they turned on him. Funny that, isn't it? So now it's Keir Starmer's last PMQs tomorrow. They'll be lovely to Keir Starmer with the hand that they used with a knife in it. They're going to be patting him on the back and saying thank you to him. So, and then Andy Burnham takes over, but we have no idea, none really, none of his policies, none of his ideas, none of his cabinet, nothing for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks. No idea what he plans to do on the world stage, no idea what he plans to do at home, no idea, apart from setting up a number 10 in Manchester, no idea about who he is, running our country, taking over the highest office in the land. and then he goes on 6 weeks holiday. Now, Kemi Badenoch is suggesting that they take a few days to question Andy Burnham, to actually scrutinise our new Prime Minister and ask him who he is, what he wants, what he plans, what his policies are, and probably more importantly, who his cabinet is going to be. But we won't get that chance for 6 weeks. It just feels like, I know that he will be Prime Minister, but it feels like an entirely huge vacuum of power. It feels like we don't have a Prime Minister, doesn't it? Because we don't know him. Keir's gone, he's off. And then this bloke, who hasn't been scrutinised, he won a local election on local issues. We have no idea what he has planned for the entire country. So, my question is, absolutely, should they be taking at least a week to perhaps do the job that we pay them to do and actually scrutinise our new Prime Minister? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me to discuss this and to go through the papers is Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. What would you be advising?
I think this is total madness. I think it's so dangerous for him, as you say, just to knowingly, willingly create this absolute vacuum over, you know, whereas always in politics, long, hot summers can be terribly dangerous. I mean, this is going to be a very long and very hot summer, and I just find it absolutely bonkers from him and his camp to just think that they can somehow go away and sort of re-submerge the submarine, because that's also been some of the commentary in the last, 2-3 weeks, that since having won the Makerfield by-election, obviously going to be the next PM, he actually didn't speak in the House of Commons.
He's never been
until Tuesday, when there was obviously the debate about the Hillsborough bill. I mean, this is the first time that we've, heard from the guy that is going to be Prime Minister. So I do, as I say, I find it absolute madness, and how anybody in his team isn't somehow provided that counterpoint of, OK, yes, you want time to get your sort of metaphorical ducks in a row, to pick your priorities, to get your team around you. But, again, to use that phrase, it's politics, dear boy, it's politics. He's not the master in terms of the complete timing of this. He may want to have the 6 weeks this summer to sort of bed in and really focus on his plan, but that's just not the way it works. In the meantime, there is still a country to be run, the circumstances of which, the cost of living isn't getting any better. The war in Ukraine hasn't gone away. Hormuz, goodness knows what Donald Trump may or may not do in the next... So, look, there are all of these still very big things
he doesn't have time for a holiday.
Prime Minister's plate, and he seems to think, all right, I won the by-election, I'm, being the shoo-in as the Prime Minister, or I'll take my summer holes now. Now, that maybe kind of be fine, as you say, in Manchester, where sort of, yes, widely credited with making the buses run on time, but, we're talking about running a country here, so I find it bafflingly naive. From the man that would be, and indeed is going to be Prime Minister, I find it baffling that he thinks that that's a thing that he can responsibly do, and that is going to anyway fly. And even if you look at the very recent past, what happened after Labour won the general election, they kind of didn't really do much in that first summer, did they? No. They did all sort of go away for their 6-8 week holiday, and then we all came back to that just disastrous first budget, which, in many ways sort of became the writing on the wall for what's literally happened to,
to Keir.
This is what I mean. It's, we're not talking about distant history here. We're not talking about a previous Labour term. Yeah. We're talking about 2 years ago. So I just find it very strange that either he himself hasn't the nous, awareness, or I don't know, sense of fear maybe even, because he's now the leader of a party that just defenestrated the last one pretty quickly.
Yes.
Although 2 years ago won the sort of largest Labour majority.
Loved him.
So I don't really understand. I don't understand the rationale behind it at all. So at best, I think it shows terrible naivety. and kind of, at worst, just a mad, misplaced complacency.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it feels like, because I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, but it does feel like we are Prime Minister less, because with Keir Starmer going, you know, as much as people didn't like him, he was that presence, he was that thing at the top, the sort of keystone, if you like, in the doorway. But we now have a new keystone that we have no idea, literally nothing about.
We now have a keystone who seems to think, you know, look, I don't even know any other Prime Minister that sort of would take 6 weeks holiday. I'm not saying Prime Ministers shouldn't have time off. You know, they are as entitled as anybody else to time with their family, all the rest of it. But I'm just saying, when you've been the newly elected one, don't take 6 weeks off.
No.
It's so bonkers. I mean, as I say, I just don't know. You know, or even some of the older heads around the cabinet table, OK, so it might not even be people that are going to necessarily be particularly prominent in an Andy Burnham cabinet, but where are the older, wiser heads not saying to him, look, a bit of advice, don't do this. This is the wrong signal for you personally.
And to the country.
And to the country.
Yeah.
So, no, I just find it very... I mean, I also sort of slightly amused me that you probably caught that Andy Burnham has been sort of talking about how in an ideal world he'd like to sort of do away with the whip system, and actually every MP, you know, as individuals, locally accountable to their, you know, to their constituents, would, you know, be guided solely by their conscience. I was just thinking, mate, this is the birds. Like, this is, you know, I'm not some sort of one of those people that sees politics as, you know, an endless game. You know, as much as I loved watching the dramas, you know, the original ITV House of Cards, and then, you know, latterly the one with Kevin Spacey, I'm actually not somebody who just sees it all a big game. But, you know, there is a difference between going down the Francis Urquhart route and then the whole, like, really, Andy, did you think this one through about the practicalities of actually getting legislation passed and actually keeping a parliamentary party, which, by the way, as I've just said, killed off the last guy before you pretty quickly, and you just kind of think that everyone's going to wander around doing things by
it's like Tony Blair said, you will not be loved. I think that's probably the best advice that a former PM can give to a new PM. You can't be loved, because
and that's
you've got to be unpopular.
Problem, because up until this point in his career, you know, for the last sort of 30-odd years, whatever it is he's been in politics, he has just kind of... and by gotten away with, I actually don't mean to be pejorative, because he does seem to be a nice enough, you know, chap, and he's got a pretty good reputation around Westminster, but he has just gotten away with being, you know, a nice chap that everyone sort of likes, and, you know, that sort of it, and he therefore hasn't really been tested, be it in the way that you've just referred to, like any of us within Westminster or the public, knowing what any of his policies might be like. He just hasn't really been tested or probed
or questioned in any way. He's now got, as well, which a lot of people don't seem to be talking about, but he's got a renewed, a backbench crowd that have renewed power, that was really gifted
and they
to
feel
them,
it,
and they feel it, and that's the point. Is that he is not going to find his backbenchers that are all cheering him on right now are going to be there if he wants to cut welfare, if he wants to do make some of the hard choices. Those backbenchers will turn on him quicker than they turned on Keir Starmer, because they feel the power now.
Well, Peter Cardwell, obviously also of this parish, had an article just at the end of last week where he was sort of setting out that he thought that Burnham might turn out to be Labour's Liz Truss. When I sort of first read it, I was like, oh, that's going a bit far. And I thought, well, actually, no. I mean, I don't think Burnham is sort of mad in the way that Liz Truss sort of felt that she had this burning intellectual mission, which turned out to have an awful lot of, like, holes in it and kind of not be a thing that worked and would also crash the markets. I don't think Burnham's got that sort of political, theoretical zeal, but I just think he's so, with the best will in the world, doesn't really know what he's doing, and doesn't even know at this point what it is he doesn't know, if you see what I mean.
That's the most important thing as well, actually.
So he doesn't actually really know where he should be taking advice or trying to plug a knowledge gap with this person. So I think in that way he's actually dangerous, because he could end up well, either as we seem
being
to be...
too idealistic as well.
Being too idealistic, too naive, as we've sort of laid out in this way that, you know, thinking he can approach his first couple of months in politics by kind of not really being here, or just because he doesn't know the unknowns, that he's going to sort of stumble into something. Yes, either through naivety, idealism, or just because he doesn't really kind of get it. Because the largest job he ever had was, you know, running the NHS under Gordon Brown, which, by the way, was an awfully long time ago, frankly, an awfully long time ago now. And so doing, yes, OK, and the NHS is a big thing, but doing, you know, a sort of, don't mean this pejoratively, but a second-tier cabinet job, right? The NHS isn't the Home Office, it isn't Defence, it isn't Foreign Affairs, it's not the Treasury. So in that way, it is a kind of second-tier cabinet role. You know, the fact he did that job, what was 16, 17 years ago, like, that's really not a great warm-up for being the actual Prime Minister.
Yeah. I mean, I just find this whole thing absolutely astonishing that the MPs, all of them really, are treating us with this amount of contempt. That's what it feels like. I mean, I know that the civil service keeps the government running when everybody goes off on holiday and all of these things, but they don't even know what he's about.
No,
and they won't have been briefed by him, presumably. They won't know what...
They won't have been given a, you know, steer, as it's called.
Yeah. So nobody will know what the heck's going on.
No, so I think we're in quite a dangerous situation, and I sort of have been... well, not really amused, because I'm kind of worried about all of this, as well, anybody sort of should be, is, you know, the fact that Angela Rayner, I mean, she just can't help herself, can she?
No.
The fact that she's been so... the last couple of weeks...
How great am I?
Yeah, but she's also picked that her colour is going to be beige, because if I can just, like, not really open my mouth too much, and then maybe he won't really remember that I'm, like, Angela Rayner, perhaps he'll give me a job.
a really big job.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you know...
And Rachel Reeves going around saying how great she is.
And Louise Hay being Burnham's brain. I mean, well, this is a woman that I don't think we ever quite got clarity on exactly what happened with her BlackBerry when she worked for Aviva and had to resign, and then that's why she had to resign, you know, from Cabinet and all of this kind of thing. It's just, you know, it's not a very... none of it's giving me great confidence that there's some real pros in there who aren't just treating it as some kind of chessboard game, but there are actually some people in there who are going, well, no, this country sort of isn't in a very brilliant
that's always
way.
what Keir Starmer needed, and he surrounded himself with the boys' club, and
we had the boys'
didn't
club.
take
He had, you know,
advice.
Sue Gray and the arguments all around that, then her having to resign and all of the backroom shenanigans there, which is, you know, the kind of Alistair Campbell point. As soon as you start sort of explaining or having to explain why your chief of staff had done this or, you know, wasn't doing that, I mean, you was basically losing there anyway. So, in some senses, I'm OK with not having blow-by-blow accounts with what's going on in the boiler room of Number 10, but that only stands up if I think there actually are some really credible people in there. And on the basis of the evidence available thus far, I don't have that reassurance.
Yeah, and there need to be some really powerful voices in there saying, look, we are in a mess and this has got to be sorted. Right, so give me a call. What do you think, having heard that? Do you think that actually these MPs should be staying on to work just for a couple more days, maybe a week, so that we can scrutinise this new Prime Minister that none of us really knows anything about? 0344 499 1000.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is the fabulous Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. Let's have a look at the papers, Amy. So the Times newspaper, Widdicombe suspect may, as inverted commas, may have targeted other MPs. Police exploring if attack was a part of a wider plot. This is a real about turn, isn't it?
Because they were originally saying nothing to do.
Nothing to do with politics, nothing to do. But now the suggestion is very strongly that that this was clearly a targeted attack. Nowhere is the word terrorism being used now. It was yesterday in order to effect another arrest. And, of course, we have to say that he is still under arrest, can be held now for 2 weeks. But there has so far been no charge, and that could take some time. But they're saying that during their investigation, and it was clearly when this suspect's house was taken over by the police and examined by the police, that they clearly found some evidence that this was a targeted attack, and it kind of had to be, didn't it? Because he went 300 miles.
Yes, I mean it wasn't
to her front door.
Well, because again, it was sort of in the early stages. It had been suggested that maybe she'd interrupted a burglary, and obviously being a sort of a woman of 78 and by herself, that's the reason why she was being targeted. And these various strands have now come out saying that left-wing extremism is understood to be among the lines of inquiry, and investigation into what the man who's been detained, what his views of political matters, abortion, gay rights, which were things that Anne Widdecombe was often quite outspoken on, and also the Telegraph here says the suspect's mental health is also being examined. So there's still, there was a police conference given on Tuesday at about sort of tea time, 5 p.m, where they were keen to stress, look, this is still a live inquiry. It is still in its early stages. Yes, we are now looking at some kind of targeted CT aspect to it. Above and beyond that, we can't really say much more. So I expect that's going to be the holding line for the next few days. And in the meantime, it obviously just remains desperately sad that Anne Widdecombe was murdered.
I mean, it is such a at the end of the day, there was a 78-year-old woman who was on her own in her home where she should be safe, and she was brutally killed. Yeah. And for her, it would appear, perhaps for her political stance or for her opinions. It's just, where are we in the world where people can't have different opinions to you without it being
murdered?
Yeah.
So this was the thing about
Jo Cox.
Anne. Jo Cox. I was actually in the Home Office when she was killed in 2016. So, big reviews of energy safety and all the rest of it. Nothing seems much to have changed. But look, the thing about, and I'm not going to be the first person to have said this in the last few years, the thing about Anne was, who I didn't know well, but obviously, came across her at various points in the sort of 20-odd years I was in West Virginia. You might not have agreed with her views on, abortion, LGBTQ, these other things, but she was such a lovely, warm...
That's what I keep hearing.
...woman.
Yeah. So
it then does go to exactly your point of why in political discourse or any sort of social discourse can we not have our disagreements, but at the end of it walk away going, well, I disagree with everything you said, but I understand your right to say it, and we've debated the point, and now let's walk away from each other. Because this was the thing. She was a lovely, lovely, warm woman, and also she could be credited quite sarcastic. Like, she wasn't above and beyond, a quickie sort of bar, but it wasn't ever like a personal jab. It was just sort of her quick wit, and I say wonderfully warm and just a nice woman. So then the idea that somebody, like some random out there, could sort of became so fixated on viewpoints that he didn't agree with, and that then turned for him in justification to go and bludgeon a 70-year-old woman to death. I mean, there is no extemporising that. There is no rationalising that. And as I have a lot of friends who are MPs and whatnot, and they are scared. Many of them are not 78-year-old women who live by themselves. The reality of the situation is, in an MP now, you do basically have like a beeper emergency button-y thingy, which is attached to your local, when you're in the constituency, is attached to your local police station. But other than that, when you are in, X constituency and you are popping down the high street or having Sunday lunch at a local pub, like, everyone knows exactly who you are. Because that's part of what makes you good at doing your job, right, is that people know you are out and about locally, and that you live very locally, and that you are approachable. And, if they do want to come up and have a chat, and they're just known in their community.
My local MP is often in my local pub. I know Andy anyway, because I used to interview him all the time. So I know him anyway, so we will often have a little chat. But yeah, he's just sat in the pub.
Yes, exactly.
And he's extremely popular. But we were talking yesterday, though, about Rupert Lowe's suggestion that the taxpayer pays for security for all of these MPs. Well, you've got 650 MPs.
I don't understand.
And then you've got all the ex-MPs. There's no way that there's a country.
I just don't understand how that. No, I don't understand how that would be feasible at all. And and there's also sort of the part of me that, like, it sort of feels like, well, that's accepting defeat as well, isn't it? That we're just accepting that.
Well, no, I was saying yesterday as well that there are other public servants who are feared. Nurses, firefighters.
Well, my point is, if we believe that anybody has to be assigned protection, we've sort of lost the argument around. Well, people just shouldn't be treated.
Yes,
this shouldn't be a thing that's happening anyway. That's what I sort of meant about losing the argument, and that's not to ignore or downplay how frightened MPs and indeed other people in public office are. It's just we can't have a society where we've just
that's okay.
Well, that's okay. We've so sort of given up on it not being okay that we've gone to the default of we have to give everyone protection, even if that were to be financially possible.
Yeah, this is always as well. It's this, people take offence at everything. They get angry about it if they don't agree with you. I mean, we're heading in the direction of the US politically, where there is such a divide in the US that families break up over whether they're Republican or Democratic.
Yeah, exactly.
And literally break up and never speak to each other again. Friends fall out. People don't speak to each other in the street. You don't go to a shop which is run by a Republican or a Democrat. All of these things, and it's like, it's just politics, guys, and it's just an opinion, and it's just words, and we've got to stop getting so angry and violent about words and opinions. And if you don't agree, come up with a good argument or ignore it.
Yes.
I mean, that's just, stop being offended by it, stop being injured by it. It's not personal, it's not about you. And I just think that's where we are pretty much as a society, and I mean, we have to wait to see the outcome, obviously, of this case. But if they're exploring that,
even just, I mean, this is obviously the most extreme example of hatred against an MP, but the daily stuff that MPs get,
particularly female
Twitter,
MPs.
Female. I mean, I used to work for Amber Rudd when she was Home Secretary. I mean, I literally would just sort of basically locked her Twitter account and wouldn't let her look at it because she'd do that classic thing, which we all do, which is just before you go to bed, you sort of, check your messages or check or whatever, and just the stuff that she would get would then literally keep her up at night. So it got to the point where it's like, no, you can't, you're not looking at your own, you're not.
No, I've disengaged from. I haven't used mine for a couple of years now.
Death threats.
Yeah, I get them all.
Graphic, just
awful.
Grot.
Just awful.
And it's daily. Yeah. It's daily. It's not a one-off. It's not kind of reportable, oh, this is
and people
horrible.
always say, oh, we'll just grow a thicker skin and get used to it. And I tried to. But also, you've got to remember as well that my son was seeing these messages as well that were coming to me, and he was getting really hurt and upset about it. And so, I mean, literally at times just awful. And now I just don't. I started just putting out pictures of my dog, and that was the only engagement.
That's the engagement that you
but
have,
you'd still
and
get
then-
hatred back.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't opened my Twitter account for, I think it's got to be 2 years now. And I'm sorry to those who send me lovely messages, because I got lovely, lovely messages as well. Really lovely. In fact, I think in the majority were lovely. But it just wasn't worth my sanity.
No, but that's the problem, isn't it? Because you'll have lovely messages, which is
Lovely
amazing, and
people.
engagement with the audience, but then there'll be one horror. And just the way, this is the way human, it's the one horror thing that you can't stop thinking. You won't remember the 20 other lovely, engaged, warm ones. Your mind will be on that horrific,
Always.
violent-y,
Or
rapey,
just
horrible
you're
one.
a horrible, old, ugly, all of that. And it's just like...
just the standard insults.
Just the standard
Not even the
insults.
rape threats.
Not
Just the standard, didn't like the way your hair looked tonight, Petrie.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, fine. No. I mean, all of it. And you're right. Those are the ones that you cling on to.
You
Those are the
did
ones
stick
that
in your mind and you sort of worry about.
Here at work, if anything, just so you know, if you're sending nasty messages, I don't get to see them because they police them in there.
Well, hopefully that shot somebody's fox if they were thinking about it.
I know. And so those people going, you're such a lefty, or whatever they call me, it doesn't, I don't see it. So don't wait. Mind you, it's kind of you to send it because it goes into the accounts.
Okay.
So it's good. Keep sending them. Keep sending them. Yeah, it's a very odd world we're in at the moment, and I don't think there's any putting that genie back in.
No, I fear it's not also.
We've got to take a break, but we'll come back to more in the papers in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie, and with me is Amy Fisher, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. Also on the front page of the Times, millions more to work until they're 68 now under new pension-aged plan. Millions more people face having to work until they're 68 before being able to claim their pension, bringing forward a rise in the state retirement age. The state pension age is due to gradually rise. What do you mean gradually? It's already at 67, isn't it? To 68 between April 2044 and April 2046.
Yeah, I couldn't really get too excited about this because I thought it was late 60s. Well, I mean, it is late 60s anyway, so the fact it's going to be another sort of...
Another year.
Another year is, at this stage, I don't think any of us think we're going to be easily able to retire anyway. So I'm sort of thoroughly kind of...
I think you're right. I think the days of thinking, oh, good, I've got my pension coming, I can put my feet up.
I'll retire, I'll go on that cruise or whatever it is I want to do. I don't know, so...
Unless you've got a private pension as well, perhaps. But even then you're going to be taxed.
Yeah. Don't bother having an ISA either, because Reeves is, sort of going off to...
I know. There's no point saving. Spend. if you've got any. And the other story on the front page is Burnham's key allies say that Miliband won't get into number 11. And there was a story yesterday suggesting that Miliband was prepared to sell his soul and open up the oil field if he got the job as Chancellor. What a scumbag. If that is true.
That one's been going around since Burnham got in. But, you know, look, for what we can believe about this story on the front page of the Times, to take my small crumbs of comfort in this uncertain world where I can, if Miliband is not going to get into number 10, that is one small thing I can be happy about.
Yes, I think the country can be happy about that. The Daily Mail is going big on the England-Argentina game, which will be obviously Wednesday. Are you going to be watching that?
Well, is it a more normal time, I think?
It is, yeah, 8 o'clock, 8 till, well,
so I will probably have it on. I'll get broadly excited if somebody does something.
I did quite enjoy the France-Spain game, actually, because obviously talk sports just behind us, so you get a bit infected by it, and then normally we have all the news channels up, but for some reason we now have football up as well.
Oh, okay.
Which might be something to do with John, my producer. I don't know. I don't want to cast aspersions, but we have the football up, so I do kind of get a little bit involved
I do get a bit excited, but then I'm also a bit sort of, oh, well, no, I don't want to watch it, because if I take it too seriously, we definitely won't win. Like, there's
your fault.
I go through these, like, no, I'm not so egocentric as to think, my God, if Amy Fisher's watching it, then it's definitely not coming out. It's not that. It's more just kind of, if I get too invested in it, because that maybe I'll just try and pretend to be cool about it, so that then I won't really mind. I get weirdly superstitious.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I think well, I would say I'll watch it tomorrow. I will be watching it tomorrow because I'll be here.
But I'm intrigued by the sort of the comments that were made after the match on Saturday. There seems to be a disagreement with the coach, and and there was some fabulously bitchy reporting after that, where there was an anonymous source had given a quote.
You know that Tuchel's now a sex symbol.
How?
According to, what's that women's online thing called?
Mumsnet.
Yes, thank you. He's a sex symbol on Mumsnet, apparently.
Not seeing that.
I'm not seeing that either, and I'm not on Mumsnet, by the way.
No, neither am I.
It's not my thing.
No, me neither.
But I was reading an article the other day said that he's become a
unlikely must have been in that sentence. No, what was I going to say? There's a fantastically sort of bitchy comment whereby somebody had said, well, the thing about him is, she tried to be a professional footballer. He was then just a bartender, so, you know. It was so like, meow. Somebody's going for him there, but then I had not clocked the unlikely sex symbol part, so that's... Well, I used to quite like...
Pep Guardiola, I get, right?
Sure, and I used to quite like Gareth Southgate and his nice line in little pullovers.
Yeah.
This guy, not quite immediately seeing it.
No. So the Daily Mail as well, going on the Widdicombe story, suspect probed. The Daily Telegraph, Alzheimer's drug could stop the disease, a major trial for a new medicine that could prevent the onset of degenerative condition. An Alzheimer's drug could prevent dementia before symptoms show, with research suggesting it could clear toxic brain plaques in just 3 months. I mean, this
is totally amazing.
Is a game changer.
Totally amazing.
I mean, that would solve... what a world we would be
So
in.
there's a brilliant quote from Hilary Evans-Newton, who's the Chief Executive of Alzheimer's Research UK. So science is advancing rapidly. Over the next 5 to 10 years, we will see a transformation in what's possible, including the prospect of treatments that protect brain health before symptoms progress.
I mean,
so at the very earliest moment, it looks like, as there's 5 to 10 years, there could be a way with, sort of early diagnosis that you don't see. I mean, Alzheimer's is such an awful disease.
Dreadful.
My grandmother, it's just horrific. So the idea that there is something that could, sort of halt or ameliorate the the progress of it is just incredible. That is
what a game. I mean, that was
brilliant. This is actually this is a good news story.
And it will just change the world. I mean, it just changes the country. It saves the NHS money. It saves care homes money. It saves, you know, people live longer and more healthy lives and get to enjoy their
older years. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the most brilliant thing, and let's just hope that they.
Yeah, no, that was in the midst of some other death positive front pages. This one really stands out.
Really stands out as an exceptional story.
Yeah.
I love medical stories like that. So Keir Starmer being hugged by Emmanuel Macron after becoming the first serving UK Prime Minister to be awarded the Legion of Honour.
Yes, I sort of love this bit of Daily Telegraph editorialese. Is that you know, there's the picture of Starmer being hugged by Macron, right next door to a story about how British citizens' fingerprints are to be taken as they enter Gibraltar, and how this is, you know, a sort of ever closer ties to Europe again. So I think somebody, in the layout pages was having fun. Having a bit of fun when they sort of thought that's how they put the front page.
At least Keir Starmer can bring this gift home, because when he was in Turkey at the NATO meeting, he was gifted with a gun and live ammunition.
Amazing.
And he had to leave it there because he couldn't, it was illegal to bring it into the UK. So it's being decommissioned in Turkey, and then he can...
It can be a sort of ceremonial...
It can be a ceremonial gun. But yeah, everybody else was given guns with bullets, and they managed to take them back to their country, which is slightly worrying.
That too much further.
But I'm glad that Keir Starmer realised that he couldn't bring a live gun and ammunition. Odd thing to gift somebody, I think, but there you go, into the country. But at least he can bring that one back. The Guardian, Boris Johnson wasted 10 billion on COVID PPE. Are we surprised in any way by that headline?
No. I mean, what sort of surprises me is this long-running COVID inquiry.
Oh my God!
I mean, sort of goes on and on and on, and then periodically you get horrible stories like this, which remind us how bad it all was.
Yeah,
and you think, oh wow, the COVID inquiry's still going on. God, it was really awful. And then it goes away again for like another month until there's some other horrible story. I mean, this is so. You know, that's what, 9.9 billion or something. Like basically two-thirds of the money that was spent trying to get this extra PPE kit was wasted. Two-thirds.
That's just...
It's outrageous. And it was also, again,
disgusting.
These VIP lanes.
Yeah.
I mean, how did they ever go off the ground? I think I'm right in saying...
Somebody's pub landlord got a PPE
I think
contract.
I'm right in saying that I don't think there was another country in the world that had, you know, even sort of Bolivia, famously transparent, or, you know, any of the South American countries, which, by the way, are just a bit corrupt. Even they didn't come up with this.
I know.
And so we sort of set up this scheme whereby quite literally if you knew somebody, the criteria was if you knew somebody in government.
Yeah.
Then you just sort of ring up, and then that brings us back round to Michelle Mone, or, you know, Baroness Bra, as she's sort of colloquially called, that just seemed to have profited quite literally off the deaths of...
Honestly, it's absolutely
I'm sort of making myself angry again now.
Yeah,
as
I'm getting
sort of slightly
angry
ranting at you, so I'll sort of try and rein it back. But as I say, it's not just that two-thirds of this money spent on PPE was wasted. You know, a third of the stuff that the kit that we bought, masks, were unusable.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful. And Boris Johnson just gets to walk away from this.
So I understand the frankly panic buying. Like, I actually do understand that, because, you know, the government didn't know what it was doing. We were dealing with a global pandemic. But then it doesn't seem like at any point anybody applied any sense of logic.
No, I think what people did was they said they could get PPE. They then went on Temu or something like that and ordered PPE and sold it for £2 a bundle.
Yes,
and
then
sold
it was turning up kind of blood-stained from China, if we remember that.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what people do. I could have done that.
Just put this through a bit of a hot wash, shall we? It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. No, Temu do them. Look, we'll get that. We'll have that for cheap. Or what the other... I don't know what the other ones are called, but there's loads of those websites that do it. The other story on The Guardian, extreme weather is the new normal. So if you were putting off getting that fan or that air conditioner because it's only a couple of days a year...
Yeah, okay, you better make the investment. No, but it's weird because sort of Monday night, the temperature sort of dropped to about 24 degrees in my flat, and I was suddenly like, oh, I feel a little chilly. because it was literally now so acclimatised that as soon as it drops down from that sort of 30, 29, 28, I was like, oh, I need a little something over, need a little cardigan over my shoulders now. I mean,
it is crackers. But my garden is storming ahead because I planted it out tropically. Because I thought that's the way the climate was going. I thought it would take about 10 years, and now it's just like,
suddenly it's all sort of coming Day of the Triffid style.
It's like a jungle out there now. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to cut some stuff back. It's just, it's loving it because the weather is so temperate. The Sun newspaper, it's in your hands now, lads. Clearly showing Harry Kane on the front there, and the Mirror is showing Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. Looking very happy with themselves. And Sir Geoff Hurst says that England have what it takes to win the World Cup ahead of Wednesday night's semi-final against Argentina. So it could be England v Spain.
Yes, and yes.
And France were the favourites. I mean, there's been so many shocks in this World Cup, really. So France were absolutely the favourites, and now it's a Spanish final, whoever it is, Argentina v Spain or England v Spain. So a lot of people will be watching that, no doubt, I think, tomorrow on Wednesday. Quick break, and we'll be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie, and with me, the wondrous Amy Fisher. You should hear the conversations we have in the break, although you never will. Former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party.
I was just thinking, where are you going with that,
Petrie? I'm never going to say... Don't worry. Never. Daily Star. Don't try for us, Argentina. That's a good line. That's a good line. I like that one. And then the three Lionels. It looks like Messi backs England. Lionel Messi has backed England in tonight's semi-final, Wednesday night semi-final with Argentina, said Jude Bellingham. And he will get
take all support. So
any support. Yeah, absolutely. So let's just wait and see. That is going to be one heck of a game. There's going to be a lot of tears one way or the other.
No, and I was reading some scary reports that sort of. Because obviously, you know, pubs have been closing at the rate of knots, well, since sort of COVID and before, that now actually we've got this, prime time game at prime time, that there's not going to be basically be enough beer in Britain.
And people have got to go to work the next day. How many people are going to call off sick on Thursday?
I think you just have to turn up. Even if, like, you're
we used to in the day, didn't we?
Even if you're, like, not in a very good state and maybe a little tired and emotional, I think you still have to turn up, because Thursday morning, anybody phoning up and going, oh, it's one of those 24-hour bugs.
Even if you,
I've got a migraine. Like, even if you have, you're going to have to scrape yourself off your deathbed, because that's not going to fly.
No one is going to believe you. But in our youth, or in my youth anyway, I'm older than you, but I all night and then get up and go to work.
I'll be all right on sort of 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Get up and go.
Get up and go.
Bacon sandwich and a cheeky Diet Coke.
Bacon sarnie. That's the key to absolutely...
No, and the Diet Coke, I would argue.
Oh, not diet, full fat, because you've got to have all the sugar. But anyway, that's our recommendation to you for Thursday morning.
Not qualified to give actual health advice.
And also, drink carefully. Responsibly, that's the word. The Metro, Keir Starmer, without his glasses, looking weird without glasses, and in an England shirt. I don't know if that's AI.
I think that must be AI. I don't think
no, it says it's Sakir in a three-line shirt at a NATO event.
Oh, because I was going to say, I don't think he's a man who's worn a collared shirt for about 20 years.
It looks like one of those little boys wearing a naval outfit.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Anyway, it says, don't jinx it, Keir. PM flies out for World Cup final if Three Lions win on Wednesday. But let's face it, he's not had much luck recently. So that would be his last foreign trip, presumably, unless you can squeeze another one in.
I think that would literally be it, isn't it? And
it would have to be. It would have to be. We are looking at the Eye now, and again, the Widdicombe story takes up the large chunk. I'm reluctant to talk too much about this because it is in the police's hands, and they've asked us not to, to jeopardise any future investigations, etc. But at the very top, there is a story about the BBC, and just before you came in, I was talking about the BBC is in real jeopardy.
Yeah.
More than 500,000 people have cancelled their TV licences, I think, in a year. And they're trying to manufacture a way, really, of getting us to pay it, even if we don't use the BBC, which I think is a bit rough.
I periodically think seriously about... Because obviously you can still listen to the radio without a license. Yeah. So I do listen to a lot of BBC news. And so I then periodically do think, why am I paying this 160 or whatever it is now?
Nearly 180.
Nearly 180. And the reason why I still stick with it, sort of slightly out myself, is I'm an avid EastEnders fan.
Oh, you.
But that is literally the only thing that I watch on the BBC, and so I've sort of weighed up, OK, 4 times a week, love the EastEnders Christmas, somebody's going to die in some ridiculous form, or somebody's going to have their brothers, sons, babies, whatever.
Yeah.
But I understand why people are telling you, there's all these streaming services. The majority of content I watch is, is on Now TV or is on, Amazon Prime. Yes, BBC for the news, the radio, but apart from EastEnders, I would opt out.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I don't actually watch live stuff, and I don't really watch a lot of BBC content.
Actually, I do watch, like, sort of Would I Lie to You? There's the occasional
thing. But I do think I pay it, but for the simple reason that I use a lot of their news content. I read a lot of their news content, and I do listen to. And I still think that even though I don't have to pay for that,
you're contributing.
Should.
No,
as journalist to journalist, I think that is
there's a consideration.
Decent,
sort of
for the work that colleagues, ex-colleagues, whatever, people I've never met before, but they are putting work into that. And so I don't have a problem with paying it, but I do have a problem with people who don't use it paying for it. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that they're talking now about adding this £180 onto streaming websites which have got nothing to do with the BBC.
It's syndicated. Sort of,
it's disgusting.
And also, look, I don't want to mesh two issues, but I don't think the BBC itself quite realises that it's not sort of favourite auntie anymore.
No.
I mean, it's just not.
It's just not.
So whether that's about the quality of its output and how much people are actually consuming that output and whether it's of a high quality. I mean, let's face it, they haven't had the best couple of years. I mean, Tim Davie, the DG, Director General, had to quit.
Head of news,
as did the head of news. There's been Hugh Edwards, Scott Mill. The strictly various bullying kind of scandal. I mean, you can carry on listing them. So I think there needs to be a certain amount of realistic introspection at the BBC itself before just looking for ways to make people pay for them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that with commercial enterprises, such as this one, if you don't give people a product that they want,
they won't watch it. This is what I mean about there needs to be the introspection that the BBC are really saying to themselves, are we producing content that people want to come to us? Because then if people want it, they will pay. Hence why I have, a couple of streaming service subscriptions because, on each different platform, there's something I want to watch. I can't get Friends on Amazon Prime, so that's why I have Now TV, but then I would love the films availability on Amazon Prime, and then do you do something? So it's very much of the consumer. It's the supply and demand, dare I say it.
We can then choose. If, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Apple TV. I think they're one of the most original streamers. They come up with brilliant original dramas, and not everything is golden, but a lot of the stuff I really enjoy on there. It's where I first went onto it for Ted Lasso. Actually.
Okay, so there was one thing that you first went onto it for, and then...
And now that I see that they've got other great dramas on there, really forward-thinking, Slow Horses, all of that, they're amazing dramas. And I pay for that, and I pay for that every month. But if they stopped entertaining me,
then I
would just take my subscription money,
essentially.
Exactly, and go somewhere else. The same with Netflix, same with Amazon, same with Disney Plus. But the BBC somehow thinks it gets carte blanche
but this is what
to supply us with absolute turt.
And it still thinks it's like 30 years ago. They just sort of haven't realised that they have a lot of competition in a way that didn't exist
the competition
20 or 30 years ago. And, if you were the favoured state broadcaster for 40, 50 years, and then suddenly you're not, and you've lost a bit of a sense of yourself because, yes, you have suddenly been battered by these scandals. They just seem to be slightly rudderless anyway in and of themselves, not least this realisation that people will pay and will want to come to you when there's stuff they want to watch.
There's the same old stuff, isn't it, that they put the same old presenters.
It's the same old presenters, and always with the exception of my beloved EastEnders specials. Even at Christmas, it's the same thing every year. It's repeats of literally Dad's Army, Only Fools and Horses. Don't get me wrong, we're great programmes, but I don't want to have been watching them every Christmas Eve for the last 20 years.
No, I mean, I just find it very strange that there's this arrogance, and there was when I worked there. There's an arrogance about the BBC that we're the best, and we're, all of that. That I didn't. I mean, I was only a presenter there, so I didn't buy into the whole structure because I was only there when I was on air, and then I was gone. But my father was a BBC man, my brother was a BBC man, and I didn't join until till my father had died. I think my brother was still there working on PM. But there's such an arrogance about the place. They really think they're it. You know, when you're at school and you say, you think you're it.
Yes.
That's what I felt like doing when I was at the BBC. You think you're it, don't you? Because you're not, actually. You're not it.
And they just haven't quite computed that.
No.
So they say,
They think there's exceptionalism
as opposed to looking inwards and saying, what is the content we're producing, they're literally going, well, how are we still going to get this money?
Yeah, how are we going to
completely
fleece
the wrong way.
How do we fleece the public out of this money instead of having to be commercial about it and saying, right, the only way we survive is by offering
people
what
coming
people
to us,
want.
yes.
And that's how organisations like this or other commercial radio stations survive, because or TV stations, because they offer something that people want, they take risks, and then advertisers pay for the viewing figures, and that's what it's all about. BBC,
I couldn't agree more.
I just pull your finger out and do something decent. And maybe employ different presenters occasionally. Amy Fisher, thank you. Lovely to see you.
Very nice to see you.
I hope you had a nice cool time in this studio, and we will see you very soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Amy Fisher there, former Director of Comms for the Conservative Party. Right, it's over to you in a moment, but we are also going to be chatting about some football, because there's quite a big game coming up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is the day, of course, of the semi-final of the World Cup, and England will be playing Argentina. We're going to be chatting about that in just a moment. But what I want to talk to you about in this hour, what I want you to talk to me about in this hour, is the very bizarre situation we find ourselves in politically in this country, where we have yet another Prime Minister who will be Prime Minister on Monday. And we don't know who he is. And he's immediately going on holiday. Immediately, he's not going to be available for public scrutiny. He's not going to be scrutinised by other MPs. He's not going to be scrutinised by, as far as we know, there's no media rounds planned. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's just a big fat nothing going to be happening for 6 weeks in this country. Now, the civil service, obviously, they keep the government churning, but we have no idea about this man who has become Prime Minister by some really sort of weird, obviously, rules that they wanted to get rid of Keir Starmer. This was a coronation. He's never been tested. He's never been questioned. He didn't have to do any debates with any of the other contenders because there were no other contenders. So we have now been dumped with this Prime Minister, and we don't know anything about what his plans are for this country. We know the backbenchers have already been in his ear about softening up on immigration rules and letting councils charge whatever they want, whatever they need to the people in their local area. Great plan, not. And all of these things, but we don't know what he's going to do. And shouldn't we know? Should we have to wait for a month and a half to try and figure out what this country is going to be doing and where it's going to be going? And it is just like Keir Starmer, just a repeat of what happened last time, where the first thing we'll actually know about Andy Burnham is probably the budget in October. And then the wheels will fall off. And he was told, he was been warned by Tony Blair, don't think you're going to be loved, you won't be loved. And he's used to being loved. We need to scrutinise this man. He needs to be questioned. We need to have some idea. And everyone said, oh, give him a break, he's only just got the job. He's been aiming for this job for quite some time. It's the same excuse that was given to Keir Starmer when he first became Prime Minister. It's like, oh, give him a break, he's only just taken the job. No, they've been in opposition for 14 years. Keir Starmer had been waiting in the wings for a little bit of time, not that long, but Andy Burnham's been around government. He knows government. He's wanted this job for absolutely ages, right? Years he's wanted this job. You're telling me he hasn't got a plan? Well, that is worrying. If he's just taking the job and he's got no idea what he's going to do, then why hasn't he been thinking about that all the time? He's been making manoeuvres against the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. So I'm confused as to who this man is. I want to know who he is, and I want him to be questioned officially about what he's planning to do. But everybody's going on holiday. 6 weeks. Do you think that they should give up at least a week of that, these MPs, to do the job that we pay them a lot of money to do? And that is to at least let us know who's running the country, because we don't have a clue. Give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about that. 0344 499 1000. Those calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Right, joining me now is John Bonfiglio, who's Talk's Latin America correspondent, because we need to talk about the football. Very good to see you, John. Thank you for joining me. What do you make of the Spain-France game? I mean, France was going to win. I mean, they were the favourites.
It was a real surprise, wasn't it? I mean, I guess part of the question going into the match was to what extent that the Spanish could employ their sort of holding of the ball and really frustrate the French, and they managed to really sort of take them to town. Interestingly, I mean, the French side is really experienced. They've been at semi-final after semi-final, but they're one bogey side now, winning 7 out of the last 10 matches against them has been the Spanish. So the Spanish certainly seem to have something on them. And then I guess another thing just to say is oftentimes with these big tournaments, especially these expanded tournaments, often it's sides that sort of come into form later in the tournament that end up doing really well and potentially winning the competition. And that seems to be the case a little bit now with the Spanish as well. This semi-final performance was their best in in the tournament, and that the French were a shadow of what we've seen before.
I mean, it was. I was watching the game, and once they got into the later minutes of the game, the Spanish were just, to use a political term, filibustering, weren't they? They were just kicking the ball about, just trying to keep it out of France's way. And France looked tired. It didn't seem to take possession very often. It was just, these were the favourites to win the entire tournament.
Yeah, it's always interesting what a sort of a footballing national, I mean, teams have it too, but what a footballing national identity is. And certainly for the Spanish, it's always been about this incredible capacity they have to hold the ball, to move the ball. But then their historic weakness, which we've seen in this tournament as well, has been scoring. I mean, they've really not managed to score many goals at all up until, of course, this 2-0 victory over France just now. So that was sort of, I guess, the kind of question going in, but they certainly sort of pushed beyond, I mean, most people's expectations. I thought and had predicted, given previous evidence, always dangerous, of course, that the French were probably going to push through and emerge victors, not in a resounding way, but they certainly had all the tools with which to achieve that. And that isn't remotely, to my ongoing shame, not remotely what took place.
But there's been quite a lot of shocks in this tournament, though, haven't there? It's been interesting. It's not been one that's been easily predicted, as the Spain win over France has proved. We've seen some good teams go out. We've seen some teams that we thought might get further not get further. So it has been interesting in that sense, hasn't it? I thought it was going to be rather dull, the whole tournament, but actually it's been worth watching the games in between the England games.
Definitely. I think there's a bit of yin and yang there, because on the one hand, the 4 teams that got into the semi-finals for the first time in history are the 4, well, since I think it was in 1990 that it was, 92 that it was, the FIFA rankings were established. It's the first time that the 4 top sides have actually made it to the semi-finals. But on the other hand, I think you're absolutely right. What we've seen, especially the fear in this expanded World Cup, was going to be that there was going to be lots of one-sided matches.
Yeah.
But actually lots of teams, lots of the minnows, really sort of turned up, and again, Spain were an example of this early on when Cape Verde held them to a draw. So there was this sort of a more level playing field, which is also one of the reasons why Gianni Infantino recently, in the last couple of days, sort of suggested that the World Cup was going to grow even further to potentially 64 sides in future World Cups, because it hasn't been an embarrassment in the way that a lot of people thought that it might do in terms of these potentially one-sided matches.
More of something doesn't always make it better. I think that's something that Infantino...
It's a life rule.
It is a life rule, and Infantino could learn that. But we've got, obviously, the England game tonight, England-Argentina. And let's talk about the football first, and then we'll talk about the fans, because there is some concern about the fans of this game. But the football side of that, there's this. How much of a grudge match is this for England and Argentina?
I mean, I think certainly from the Argentine perspective, you can't understate it at all. I mean, it is a grudge match and I think you can't separate it from broader society as well. It is clearly a grudge match in on the pitch, but
Oh, we've lost John, I think. Can we try and get him back?
Into history, society, and of course the... Hello.
Sorry, you dropped out there for a second, John, but we've got you back now. You were saying you can't separate really the game from the countries.
Yeah, I think the Argentine identity is so fixed in a couple of recent events, and I mean the most, alongside Evita, obviously famous in Argentina. The major figure is, of course, Diego Armando Maradona. I mean, he just infiltrates all aspects. Yeah, of Argentine society. And that's interesting because it's that quarter-final in 1986, which is regarded as being his most significant contribution to Argentine culture and society. And that's because it took place 4 years after the war, the Falklands War, in which hundreds of Argentines were killed, and that sort of the memory of the needless deaths of those individuals was seemingly given some kind of moral purpose by Maradona's contribution in 1986. So you really can't sort of strip all these things apart. And that's why a lot of individuals, especially Argentine manager Lionel Scaloni, has been pretty adamant about sort of trying to emphasize that this is just a football game. This isn't anything else. But, very few Argentines believe you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? That as much as people try to say that this is sport and politics have got no place in sport, we've seen already in this World Cup that politics have very much played a hand in this football, not least of which that happened with Donald Trump and Infantino coming up with an American red card that was going to be delayed. But the FBI and the police in the US are concerned about the fans' behaviour around this game, because there seems to be a lot of anger from Argentina. There seems to be a lot of comments from politicians in Argentina about wanting the Malvinas back, the Falkland Islands. So there's a lot of politics here, and Donald Trump has also, in the past said he doesn't have a problem with Argentina taking the Falklands back. So there is politics around this game anyway.
Yeah, it's inevitable. And obviously, this is, as you say, Petrie, a highly politicised World Cup. I mean, we've had a number of them, but I don't remember anything quite like this. And as you say, the FBI, in a meeting in the last 40 hours with FIFA and local officials and local police, have identified this semi-final fixture as being something which could potentially sort of explode or expand into significant trouble. So there is sort of expanded policing that is taking place around the stadium in Atlanta. Interestingly, the fans are going to have different entrances into the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but in keeping with the rest of the World Cup, there is non-segregation within the ground. So fans are going to be in mixed zones throughout the stadium. So let's hope that it passes off firstly without controversy, because often that is a spark to trouble, and secondly that we don't see scenes which will be eminently regrettable during and after the event.
Yeah. There's also, I was hearing earlier on, there's a little bit of controversy there around the referee for the England-Argentina game. What's all that about?
It's, we live in a time of conspiracy theories. Argentina and Messi have a particularly good record when he referees. So there is this sort of, people look for omens, of course. Was it the octopus that chose the winner? And then there's the duck in Mexico, the Mexico supporting duck, which is now almost Mexico's most famous celebrity. And an omen that is being picked up on by Argentines and Argentine fans here is the presence of this referee. But I think there's a fair bit of deep water between people's commentaries online, especially as regards conspiracy theories, and then what emerges in reality.
So it's not like he's bent in favour of Argentina. They just think they do rather well when he's on the pitch.
Yeah, it's a sign from above.
The same hand. John, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. John Bonfiglio, the Talk's Latin America correspondent. So it's all to play for. Quick break, back in a sec.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Go on a big holiday. Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text talk to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text talk to 8338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk and it is Petrie, and this is your chance to talk back. And I'm asking you about the fact that we do have a new Prime Minister, another one. I know, we keep saying that, but there is another one. And it is Andy Burnham, and he will be Prime Minister by Monday, in name. Because they go on holiday. I mean, it's kind of like when teachers go on holiday in the summer and they say, "Oh, it's not a holiday. I'm doing the homework. I'm doing stuff." But so they say, "Well, it's not 6 weeks holiday. We have to go to our constituency and we carry on doing homework." But basically, they're not in the Commons for 6 weeks, and that means that our new Prime Minister will not be questioned. He will not be scrutinised. He will not really be Prime Minister. He will be Prime Minister in name only. And I think that's wrong. I think that these MPs should be questioning him. We, as the people who pay their wages, should know what this man has got in store for the country that is ours and that we fund. Don't forget, the government doesn't have any money. We fund them and we pay their wages too. We fund the NHS, we fund education, we fund councils, we fund the roads, we fund every single part of this country. They owe us. They owe us. They work for us. At the moment, they all think we work for them because that's the way it looks. But we need to remind them occasionally that they work for us. We are their bosses. And yet they're not going to be around for 6 weeks when we've got a new Prime Minister. So, do you think that they should have 5 weeks holiday rather than 6 and maybe do something to support the country? This text has come through. Why can't the government and MPs take holidays on a rotating basis? This country is facing financial problems and defence threats. How can they take 6 weeks holiday? It's scandalous. You wouldn't run a business like this. But it's like the BBC, isn't it? If you've got guaranteed money coming in, you don't have to care. You just do what you want. And that's the truth of it, isn't it? So, I don't know. Let's talk to Kevin now, who's in Hull. Hi, Kevin. Good morning.
Good morning, Petrie.
What do you think about these people not scrutinising our new Prime Minister?
Well, at the end of the day, it's like you say, they're having this break. I think, personally, the country is in more seriousness and all the things that are going on with, like, defence spending and all this, that and the other. They should cancel the holidays. Let's crack on and get on with it. Because all I feel, and I'll say this, is Andy Burnham is just going to give reform
an easy march.
Yes, loads of bullet heads and maybe people shifting. You know, and the thing is, at the end of the day, Petrie, even like in my lifetime, it's always been Labour Conservative. What damage? And I don't really support them, but what damage more could reform do?
Well, there are some of their, I mean, they're not very clear on a lot of their policies, but I mean, again, looking at Nigel Farage speaking not long ago about the NHS, saying we need to turn more towards an insurance model. And look, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a rethink about how the NHS is funded, but we need to keep as far away from the American model as humanly possible. So they could do a serious amount of damage, but so could Andy Burnham. And we don't know. We don't know anything about him.
It's the devil in the deep blue sea.
It is, unfortunately.
I don't know too much about him. Well, I do, and I don't. But the thing is, to come from Mayor of Manchester to leaving the country I'm sure Manchester are behind him 100%, but it's the whole of the country.
And it's a different job.
It is a massively different job. I mean, personally, if we sat in those rooms for one day for discussions of what to do and where to put money, it'd fry you. I mean, the thing is, I've watched prime ministers in the past who took on the country and how quickly grey they go.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
How quickly they age.
Do you remember Tony Blair? That was, for me, the biggest shock, because he came in quite a young, sprightly fella, and then within a couple of years he was sort of grey and slightly hunched over.
Well, look at him now. It catches up on you. And I think a lot of it was to do with the war, you see.
Mm. Yeah, I think that with Tony Blair giving Andy Burnham advice, saying you won't be loved, I think that's a very important thing for Andy Burnham to listen to, because he has been, because the Mayor of Manchester is a much easier job. It really is. It's nice, right? You dish out money that you've got. If you haven't got money, you blame central government. It's not your fault. So everything is fine, right? You're never the bad guy. Well, Andy Burnham's got to learn to be the bad guy, because he will be to somebody.
Yes, the Mancunians, they're very malleable people. You know, they're very flexible, but the rest of the country isn't.
No, and he's going to learn very quickly. But the thing is, Kevin, the whole idea that this Prime Minister in name only, right, for 6 weeks, and then who is he? What's he planning? Where's he going with all of this? We don't know anything. He hasn't been questioned. He hasn't been scrutinised. He hasn't done anything. He's just swanned in. And he's now the Messiah, and we don't know what he's planning. And I think that's outrageous.
I think the thing is, at the end of the day, if you're taking on the job, you can't hide behind a screen for 6 weeks.
No.
I mean, although he might not be ready for it, I'd absolutely come out guns blazing.
Yeah, and also, Kevin, if he's not ready for it, why? I mean, this isn't the first time he's been mentioned as being Prime Minister, right? This isn't the first. He hasn't. It's not like he suddenly woke up one day a couple of weeks ago and went, "Oh, I quite fancy being Prime Minister." He's been angling for this job for a while. So you're telling me he hasn't got any idea? Well, that worries me.
Well, it worries me because he must have people in the background, as in four followers, and second in command and third in command, that will give him advice.
Absolutely.
The thing is, what worries me as a person, he's going to go straight into the job. Why hasn't anybody challenged him?
I know.
That's what really worries me. Even if it's somebody that knows they won't get it, but we'll go guns out. You know, we're up for the vote. There's no vote. He's in.
Yeah, it's a coronation. It's a coronation. It's like Blair handing over to Brown. It is just as cynical as that. And he hasn't had to do any debates. He hasn't had to prove himself. He hasn't even had to talk to the Parliamentary Labour Party or the Labour Party members and say, this is what I'm planning, this is what I'm thinking. They've just flown him in. It's utterly bizarre.
I think the thing is, what the public probably do and don't realise is, we've had a Prime Minister lasted, female Prime Minister lasted, what was it, 16 weeks or something?
43 days or something, 43, 45 days, something like that. Yeah.
What the public need to know is every Prime Minister gets £110,000 a year for the rest of their lives, plus security.
Mm.
So basically, although it's small peanuts, as in financial
Well, it's
terms,
good work if you can get it. I wouldn't mind that sort of money. I'm telling you.
Yeah, employ me for a week.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're next in turn for Prime Minister anyway, because they come around so quickly now. We'll get our go. But yeah, it is absolutely. For me, the system that has allowed this to happen needs to be corrected, because I've got nothing against Andy Burnham. I don't know anything about him, and that's the problem. There should be some recognition of what he's planning for the country. And why has everybody else voted for him in the Parliamentary Labour Party? What do they know that we don't know? Just that he's not Keir Starmer. That's it.
I think the thing is, at the end of the day, Petrie, sorry for cutting in, the press, which is your job, do a lovely job of building somebody up like Starmer and this, that and the other, but they'll already have dirt on him that will release in the future. So that will happen.
Oh yeah, don't worry. The vultures are already circling around Andy Burnham. There will be all sorts of stuff coming out, and we should know it, right? I think it's a good thing that that journalists do that job. And because that's the only way we get to find out. Otherwise, we don't know anything.
No, because if they're whiter than white, they wouldn't go for the job.
No.
You know. Anyway, one thing, Petrie, before I go.
Yes.
Right. You've lost a bit of weight.
Yes.
Yes, and that's a bit worrying.
Oh, it's not for my bones. So don't worry about me. I'm absolutely fine.
That's lovely. Now,
I'm absolutely fine.
As the director would say, get on to the next call.
I will do that. Thank you for your direction, Kevin. Thank you for your concern as well. That was sweet. Right, I'm going to take a quick break, but I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. We're going to return to your calls in a little while and your messages as well. And just if you've just joined, what we're talking about is the fact we have another new Prime Minister starting his job on Monday and we don't know anything about what he's planning. And the most ridiculous thing is that they immediately go onto a 6-week recess, all of them. All 650 of them are on recess, so nothing is getting done. And worse than that, nothing is being scrutinised. Nobody is asking Andy Burnham a single question about what he plans to do with the country that he is now the head of. It's extraordinary. It really is absolutely mind-blowing that this man who has been, I don't know, coronated as Prime Minister of a democratic country has managed to do it with only the scrutiny of local politics in Makerfield and his job as the Mayor of Manchester. And he is now the head of the country. And we don't know what he's planning. We have no idea. So do you think that these MPs that we pay very handsomely to work for us should, in fact, give up some of their days off in order to scrutinise the man who will be running the country? Give me a call on that. I'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000. However, there is a story that I found absolutely absolutely fascinating. I switched on my phone as soon as I got in the car yesterday morning at just gone 1 o'clock to see a story which must have really affected Donald Trump's night. So joining me now to discuss this is Niall Stanage, who's a White House columnist at The Hill in Washington, D.C. I'm absolutely delighted to meet you. Thank you for joining me this morning. Well, for me, it's this morning. Now, this was a big play of Donald Trump's, wasn't it, about his tax dealings? I'll hand it over to you to explain it better than I could about what, and also what this court ruling actually means for him.
It was a very scathing court ruling that was really aimed at disputing the whole basis of the case that Donald Trump took, to try to simplify a rather complicated story. Donald Trump's tax returns leaked years ago. The person who had facilitated that leak was discovered. If I recall correctly, he was prosecuted. But Trump took the view that this was a failing on the part of the IRS, the tax authorities here, and the Department of the Treasury. He then sued on that basis in a, quote, personal capacity. And of course, he was suing parts of his own government into which he had installed very loyal people as the leaders. To, again, simplifying things somewhat, the end result was a settlement between Donald Trump and the IRS, which would have involved the setting up of a fund of $1.7 billion approximately of taxpayers' money, admittedly not to Trump himself, but for disbursement to people who would be judged to have been harmed by a quote-unquote lawfare, including perhaps people convicted of January the 6th related offences. Ultimately, it came before a judge. The ruling that you heard about, Petrie, was that judge saying, no, you can't do that. That's essentially a fake case.
Because basically he was suing himself. That was basically what the judge was saying. Because he originally wanted $10 billion, didn't he, personally, from the IRS for this, even though it's my understanding that presidents are required to release their tax returns. And this tax return that was leaked showed he'd only paid $750 in a whole year.
Yeah, I mean, there is a whole subplot to this about Donald Trump's tax returns, his disinclination to release them. And when we do see tax returns, they often seem to involve rather creative accounting, to say the least, that has tended to limit his tax bill. But I want to get back to the point you raised just a moment ago, because I think it is the central one. The judge's argument here is that the case that we're talking about was blatant and egregious self-dealing, because two sides in a legal dispute need to be legitimately adversarial. And that obviously was not the case here, at least in the judge's opinion. It was Donald Trump, the individual, and Donald Trump's government creating what she considered a fundamentally fraudulent case, and then creating a taxpayer-funded settlement as a result.
The settlement that you're talking about, his slush fund, it was called, to reward people who were have been loyal to him. That's the way that many people have described this fund. That was already sort of abandoned, wasn't it? Because there was a lot of pushback on the idea that Jan 6ers who had killed police officers could apply for this money. They could come forward and ask to be rewarded for their actions on January the 6th, already having been pardoned by Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The pushback was notable because for once it did actually cross party lines. So often when there are political controversies here, as you well know, Democrats line up on one side, Republicans line up on the other. Republicans typically line up, often in a rather craven way, frankly, behind Trump. That didn't happen here. at least it didn't happen here uniformly, Republicans were raising concerns about it. I think perhaps because of, as we say here, the optics. We are less than 4 months away from the midterm elections, and having taxpayer money potentially dispersed to people convicted of January the 6th offences, perhaps even involving assaults on police officers and things like that. There was just no way to make that anything but a major political illusion.
The other thing that Donald Trump got in this lawsuit of suing himself was that he got immunity for him, his family and his businesses from any audit in the future from the IRS. I mean, that's extraordinary. I've never heard anybody being told that they can, with impunity, never be looked at by the tax office again.
Yeah, I mean, that was another extraordinary part of the deal, and one that has been, I think, less commented upon. Now, there's some fine print about, is he immune forever, including the future, or is he immune from audits up to this point, of his taxes up to this point? But let's not get lost in the weeds here. We're talking about a president taking a $10 billion legal case against departments that are run by his close allies and emerging with a payoff by proxy, a payoff to his supporters in the shape of a slush fund, and the immunity that you're talking about from further investment.
Yeah, I mean, he said it was a sweetheart deal, didn't he? I think those are the words that he used. There's also an issue, isn't there, with some of the lawyers involved in this case. The judge, who was a Democratic appointee, I believe, by Obama, but she has said, right, you're going to the bar. I think there's 2, is there, that are now being examined to see if what they did was even legal.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this does, I think, underscore the degree to which the judge herself is pretty outraged about this whole episode. I mean, the judgment, which I read in full yesterday, is just consistently scathing of the Trump side. And she does refer, at least one lawyer, to the bar for investigation about the ethics of his actions. Her argument, in short, is that the lawyer, I guess, should have known that this was shady, for want of a better term, that it was a dodgy enterprise that should not have been put forward.
I mean, this is not the first time that this has happened to Donald Trump, but is it, with certain lawyers and judgments and cases in other cases around the country where lawyers have been, in the Department of Justice, for example, that they've been told that their cases weren't strong enough or they weren't doing the right thing. So there is a precedent set here. It's not just this judge that has pointed out that some of these lawyers are ill-prepared. They're not following strictly to the guidelines of law.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are the parallels are inexact, I would say, but there are some instances of that, particularly around the fraudulent claims of election fraud or election chicanery in 2020. Whenever there, I mean, to just take one example, Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York City, was found to have defamed 2 poll workers, election workers in the state of Georgia, and there were obviously repercussions for that for him. So, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a really fascinating case to me. If I just want to pick up on a couple of other US stories while I've got you, Niall, if that's okay. There's been another killing by ICE, and we would be forgiven in this country to thinking that had gone very quiet, because at one point there were so many stories about the immigration situation in the US with a couple of high-profile killings. But now there's another one. So ICE is still ongoing. It's still doing all the things that we thought it was doing before.
Yes, although there was a pause, and I think you raise a good point about how it seemed to have gone quiet. You are, I think, alluding to the killings of Renee Good and Alex Petrie in Minneapolis in January, after which there were massive and, in my mind, very understandable public protests. Following that, there was an attempt, I think, to lower the profile of some of these ICE actions. Of late, we're seeing reporting that they have again been ordered to meet high quotas for deportations. We've got 2 killings in the past week. There's now been a brief suspension of traffic stops by ICE, but it's still a very contentious issue for obvious reasons.
Hugely contentious, and stories about a 3-year-old who's witnessed that death as well, heartbreaking. Donald Trump is set to address the nation on Thursday. That's come out of the blue. Did we know about that?
We didn't until approximately 24 hours ago, maybe a little more. Yeah. So the even more perplexing thing is we're not really sure what he's going to say. Typically, those primetime addresses are about declarations of war or sometimes declarations of the end of war. There have been some suggestions that he's in fact going to ventilate again some of his claims about the 2020 election. There's some suggestion that he might talk about Iran, where obviously we know, the escalation of hostilities there again. Maybe a combination of both of these things. Maybe he's going to do more of these as the midterms loom. That's another suggestion. So really a lot of uncertainty about this Thursday night address, but it's happening, so we shall see.
Well, we shall see. I think I have my suspicions as to what it might be, as you might have as well, Niall. Just more chance for Trump to talk about Trump, maybe. It's been really nice to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I hope we get to speak again. Niall Stanage there, who's a White House columnist at The Hill in Washington, D.C. Quick break, back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. And we are talking about our new Prime Minister. Yes, indeed. I don't know how many times I've said that in the last few years, but quite a few. Yes, indeed. We have a new Prime Minister, and his name is Andy Burnham, and he has been helicoptered into the job without scrutiny. Nobody knows really what he's about. Even those of you in Manchester don't know. You know more than we do what he's about, but you don't know what he's about. as Prime Minister, and Prime Minister is a very, very, very different job. As Mayor of Manchester, he would have been able to, dish out money, and then if there wasn't money for something, he didn't take any responsibility for that, he just blamed Westminster. So it's a very different job to suddenly being the person who is going to be blamed. And I don't think he's going to like not being loved. As Tony Blair has told him, he won't be loved. So he is at the moment, but only by Labour Party members. Perhaps, mind you, they weren't given the opportunity to vote for him either. So even the people who pay their membership for Labour didn't get the chance to vote for him. No, the people of Makerfield made him Prime Minister, because as soon as he was an MP, he was then coronated by the Parliamentary Labour Party to be Prime Minister, without scrutiny, without questions. There was no debating. There was no leadership challenges. There was no nothing. And yet, when he becomes Prime Minister on Monday, by name only, we have no idea who he is and what he's planning. And furthermore, we won't know for 6 weeks, because it's recess time. So they're all taking 6 weeks. Now, I'm sure that during that 6 weeks, Andy Burnham will indeed be sitting down and writing notes to himself and coming up with plans and chatting to people and trying to find out what's going on. I'm sure he will be doing that. I don't think he's going to be taking the full 6 weeks off. But one thing he won't be doing is answering any questions about what he's planning. And that, to me, doesn't feel like we have a Prime Minister for that 6 weeks. Because we're used to it, right? They all go on holidays and things. But they would have spoken to the civil service and given them parameters, given them a steer. As Amy Fisher said earlier, they would have had a steer. They would have been told what to do in certain cases if something happens. We don't even know if Andy Burnham's spoken to these people. So, you know, what happens if there's an attack? What happens if, I don't know, the internet goes down? What happens if the grid goes? What, you know, civil service need to be told what to do when things happen. Well, there's nobody there to tell them because Andy Burnham is on holiday, or at least he is not visible. As far as we know, there's no plans for him to be scrutinised whatsoever. So that's the question I've been asking you this morning is, do you think that he should be? And I don't think there can be anybody in this country who's interested in the safety and security of this country that would say that it's a really good idea to become Prime Minister on the Monday and then not speak to us and not tell us what he's about for 6 weeks. Nobody can think that's a good idea. I can't believe he thinks it's a good idea. And if he does, if he actually does think that's a good idea, if he actually does believe he doesn't need to speak to us, then I don't think he's going to be a very good Prime Minister. I think he's missed the brief. I think that he'll be a disaster. If he actually believes that not speaking to the country or not telling us what he's planning or not being scrutinised, if he thinks that's a good thing, I don't think that speaks very highly of him. And the Tories are calling for him to at least answer some questions, to hang on for at least a day or maybe two and answer some questions, to be in the Commons and to be scrutinised. But there was meant to be a vote on that, on staying on a bit longer, on not starting recess as quickly as Monday or Friday, in the Commons tomorrow. But Labour have squashed that. Labour have squashed that. There's now going to be a vote on Iran, something else. So they were going to vote on that, but it's been kicked out. It's not going to be voted on. And that doesn't bode well either. What are they worried about? Why can't we ask this man questions? Why isn't he being scrutinised? There's something not right about it. Why have they squashed that vote? It's very odd. And it feels like it's the wrong time for him to be taking this sort of time off. Do you agree? 0344 499 1000. Do you think that these MPs should be made to hang around for a few more days and do the job that we pay them to do? They work for us, but they think we work for them. So give me a call, let me know. This message has come through from Tony in Coventry. He says it's an absolute disgrace to have 6 or 7 weeks off, never mind the 16 weeks off these bone-idle people who represent us get. It's woeful. 100 grand a year and 16 weeks off. They're not teachers. And that's Tony in Coventry. Carol said they should recess from Commons for 8 weeks, but transfer straight to their constituencies. I'm sure the people would love to have a word about what they're paid to do. Any holidays taken should be annual leave like the rest of us. Yeah, anybody else get 16 weeks? Anyone? Anyone at the back? Paid? No. Well, they will tell you that they're working in their constituencies or they're doing work at home or something. But I don't know. So let's go to the calls now. Tristan is in Bedford. Morning again, Tristan. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good.
It's laughable. That's what it is. I mean, I've never heard a prime minister being spoke about when they speak about his eyelashes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just bizarre.
I agree.
In more ways than one, to be honest with you. And to be honest, you know, if you saw the interview with Andrew Marr and you saw the questions on Reddit, it's just nothing.
It's fluff.
It's like they're interviewing someone for, I don't know, a talk show or something.
I agree. It's just fluff. He has not been scrutinised at all. It's fluff and nonsense.
It's pathetic,
yeah,
to be honest with you. And the thing is that, you know, I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be some riot or something that he's going to have to do something or say something. And if it's not going to be in his narrative to actually say something, he won't say anything. He will keep quiet, and that's the thing. It will be the Ming Bar strategy, but he actually will be in power and try not to say anything and try not to upset the backbenchers and everything like that. It's just going to be an absolute nothingness. I can't see anything productive happening at all, to be honest with you.
I think that's a really interesting point, and that is the other thing that we need to know about him, because we know that Keir Starmer gave in to the backbenchers. He completely gave in. I mean, he was pushed around by the backbenchers, and now those backbenchers have tasted power, and they have seen what happens when they throw blood into the water, and they are not afraid now. It's like Iran with the Strait of Hormuz, right? They're not afraid now to use that strategy should Andy Burnham try to cut welfare or try to do something unpopular, you know, try to save the country some money. They are going to be all over him like a rash, and we don't know if he can stand up to them or not.
No, because he won't. It's as simple as that. I mean, I like to have things in writing. I like to do my due diligence. I mean, I'm speaking to my landlords tomorrow to go through my new tenancy agreement, and I'm going to ask loads of questions.
Yeah.
I like to ask loads of, I like to ask questions, and anything they give me that I'm not sure about, I was like, can I have that in writing? I want to make sure that I know everything, cross the I's and dot the T's. But the thing is, as I said to your researcher, the thing is Labour are in, the left are in, and it's just tribal, and they just will not scrutinise them at all. They will not ask anything that's difficult. And when he has interviews and stuff, it will be fluff questions.
Oh, I seriously hope not, because I think the country is on the edge here. We're all really fed up with this politicking and playing around and new leaders every 5 minutes and new prime ministers. He has got to do something really substantial to win this country over, or at least even to give him a chance.
I give him 3 months before he's hated like Keir Starmer was hated, because it will be a situation where does he choose to actually make the right decision or choose a decision on common sense?
The easy question, the easy decision.
Or does he make the easy decision and bend to his backbenchers and bend to his base? And as Keir Starmer said when he got in, he would put the country before party. He never put country before party. It was party before country every single time. And it's exactly the same how I think Burnham will go.
And I think also with Andy Burnham, he's used to being loved and liked. And I don't think, I don't like, I mean, if somebody I don't know doesn't like me, I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. But I don't want to be universally unliked. And I don't think Andy Burnham will do well with that. I think he's somebody who's always been, you know, oh, Andy. And I think he's going to find it really difficult to be unliked. So he's going to do everything to continue being liked by the people who put him in that position. That's my fear.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you were constantly being liked, then you won't be able to gain that actual respect.
No.
And then people won't fear you, and people won't be bothered what you say. So it's like if he says something like, "Oh yeah, whatever."
Yeah, whatever. We'll just rebel. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that we have a right to know what we're getting into, and at the moment we haven't got a Scooby, have we? Not a Scooby. We haven't got a clue.
And I think it'll be a case of in the next 2 months,